and we talked about the challenge ahead to get ready for the Chargers, and that was kind of the extent of it.
But there's another chance to win today. Minkah Fitzpatrick with the Chargers breakdown.
They have talent all the way across the board, from outside all the way into the backfield. They're a physical team. They like to run the ball, but they also have a quarterback and receivers who can hurt you. So it's a game that you have to go into and come into the game with a really well-rounded game plan.
Hoping for the best today. We're talking about the game right now on Gameday Uncensored, the pregame show for real Miami football fans. Tobin, Solana, with Omar Kelly and Chris Perkins on FM 104.3 WQAM, Miami sports leader.
Gameday Uncensored on FM 104.3 WQAM is brought to you by the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models now through September 2nd. Learn more at Lexus.com. By Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet. When it comes to scoring a rugged new truck, Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet is the MVP of selection. Visit EdmoreSawgrassChevrolet.com and start shopping today. Remember, you're always backed by Morse. And by JM Lexus. JM Lexus has the best team in the business. A 4.8 Google rating with over 22,000 reviews and counting. JM Lexus, West Sample Road, Margate.
And good morning, everybody, and welcome on in. It's another edition of Game Day Uncensored here on FM 104.3 WQAM. Brendan Tobin here with you alongside my co-host, Alejandro Solana. Hello, Solana. How are you today?
I'm good. Tobin, what's up, man? What's up, Dan?
Dan Day producing for us here today. Dan, you double dipping today, dude? You got post-game as well?
Yeah, of course, man. 1 hour of power. And then Solana gets pregame for the Heat right after me. So it's like Solana and Dan Day all day.
I forgot we got a Heat game tonight. The Heat have been off for a little bit. It's been weird. They came out of the gate humming with all these games, and then they're just like little break skis, and now we got back-to-back action. All right. Mm-hmm. Listen, this is it's going to be a hell of a test. If the Heat can't beat the Magic, they're not beating anybody because you got that in-state rivalry. So that should be fun today. No Nico though, right? He's got a messed up back.
Yeah, no Nico. I did speak to Kasparis Yakuchonis after his big preseason debut the other day. If anybody's interested in listening to that conversation, how about a little tease for you, Tobin, for today's pregame show?
Listen, Kasparis has been throwing better passes than Tua this season already. So I'm all for it.
That's a very, very good point, man.
He was impressive. He was impressive that last game. No, I'm excited. So it's a full slate today, dude. It's a full slate of action. You got yourself some Dolphins. They are taking on the LA Chargers, which is always a sensitive game, Solana. Is it not? It's always a sensitive game because of who is their quarterback. The two quarterbacks in this game pick apart, and it's inevitable. Like every time this matchup happens, and Tua's gotten the better of it. Tua has gotten the better of it in the past, but this is a matchup now with Harbaugh here. But it's tough not to feel like their fortunes are going, even with them losing a couple in a row. It's tough not to feel like their fortunes are going in a different direction. The West out there is a little wonky with the Chiefs maybe being vulnerable for the first time in forever, and the Dolphins just feel like they're spinning their tires. They had arguably one of the worst losses of the McDaniel era last week, and I guess I don't know what you're hopeful for at this point. I don't know if people are hopeful for just embarrassment. Are they hopeful to rally? You got everybody going out there. Is this going to be one of the most empty looking stadiums we've seen in a while, just because it's not exactly a powerhouse fan base that they're facing off against? I don't know what to expect today.
I was going to ask you, is today a big game? Because is today a must-win game? I know theoretically you're 1-4, you've got to win, right? I get that. But come on, man. This team's not going anywhere. They're just not. So you could argue, and I don't know if fans want to do this, because I realize you're waking up, you're going to a game, you're going to a tailgate, you're looking for optimism. I get that, man. You're going to go have fun at a football game. You don't want to talk about, hey, losing's better. But the reality is, if you can kind of just step back for a second, this organization is clearly headed towards a reset. So having a higher draft pick would be better for the organization. But Tobin, Dolphins, Chargers, Tua, Herbert, Is today a big game? Like, do we still feel like this is a game that Tua needs to win, that Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer feel like, wow, we need to show that our quarterback was still a good pick over Justin Herbert? Because I feel like everybody outside of Miami has stopped having that discussion. The Dolphins made a massive mistake in taking Tua ahead of Justin Herbert, and the Chargers are just in a way better position. Again, I'm speaking from the national perspective than the Miami Dolphins are as an organization. So I just feel like nobody thinks this game matters anymore. But I wonder, does the Dolphins fan still feel like this is a must-win?
I think you're always going to have a little hate in your heart for the pick because you don't want it being felt like your organization made a colossal disaster.
Yeah.
You know, it reminds me a little bit back in the day. If we talk Heat, it reminds me a little of the Justice Winslow, Devin Booker thing and how much we were trying to make that a thing for years. But is today a big game? It would have been if they won last week. Unfortunately, they didn't. They lost to the Panthers, which kind of solidifies the Dolphins as one of the worst teams in football.
Yep.
You know, there's no other way to sugarcoat it. There's no other way to write. And mind you, that's a Dolphins team that's not only that's a team that doesn't have Tyreek Hill anymore. It's a team that has rookies that are really, really struggling. And I think the thing that's disappointing with them and has really been the theme, you know, they got annihilated week 1. And that was embarrassing because you felt like if any team needed a hot start to the season, it was the Dolphins. And they had this matchup against the Colts on the road, and the Colts have looked decent. So, all right, maybe the loss doesn't look as bad, but they lost in every facet of that game. They weren't even competitive in that game. Then you get into the divisional play, and I think the thing that was frustrating about that was they just, every time one side of the football got it going, the other side blew it. And that's kind of been the theme the rest of the way, is just like this team just cannot pull in the same direction together. They cannot have a good game together. They cannot have good drives, back-to-back drives, because it seems like whenever the offense comes through, like Tua finding Jalen Waddle to put them back on top after they had squandered a lead, what do you know? The defense, are they going to hold? No. And then they get a stop. Can the offense come back, and can they get the lead? Because no, of course not. It's going to end in disaster. Tua's going to get sacked, or Tua's going to, throw a pick or nearly get picked off. So yeah, it's just, it's really bothersome why this is happening. Cause it just feels like, yeah, they'll show flashes in games for sure, but their construction and their unity as a team is just so broken. And I just don't know how they get it back on track. It just feels like there's too much to fix.
Tobin, we've had this conversation before. What's this team's identity? I still don't really know. I'm still not entirely sure what I can point to and say, this is what they do very well every single week. What are they consistently good at? What can you at the very least say, hey, we don't know how the offensive line is going to play. We don't know how that secondary is going to look, but at the very least, they do this well. We can rely on this to be great every week. I don't know what that is, other than Devon Achane being great. Like just being that dude.
Which he wasn't last week. He wasn't last.
No, I mean, he didn't run the ball great, but the touchdown grab in the back of the end zone, I mean,
that was great. That was a great catch. And that was a great catch, but they didn't run the ball.
They literally did not run the ball.
Nope.
So, but other than just him being great, right? Like he's fantastic. He's going to make a play every week. What can you point to and say, this team does this well every single week? Is it Riley Patterson thus far saving my ass on our afternoon show? That just because he hasn't missed a field goal, which of course, knock on wood, today it's going to happen because I'm gloating about it. But like, right. Is that like what can I don't know, Tobin. I still don't know. It was supposed to be the front seven. It was supposed to be the guys up front, the big guys, the edge rushers, but they haven't been reliable this season. So I don't know what this team's identity is. I have no idea.
Well, if you want to know what's crazy about this team and where the state of the team is, think what we were thinking 2 weeks ago when Darren Waller was making his debut, and we're all sitting here being like, I expect nothing. I said that. I didn't expect anything. I
never
thought
been more wrong.
I was like, this
more wrong about a debut.
Think about, we're thinking this guy's going to give us nothing. 2, we need more of him, because if we don't have him, we're screwed. We need more Darren Waller. So if that doesn't just give you a personification of how poorly constructed this roster is, I don't know what can, because I didn't think this guy was going to be a contributor of football this year. And now we're all just like, why did we stop throwing to him? Nobody can cover him.
Are you suggesting that our identity is Tua to Darren Waller?
Yes.
And I don't even disagree with you. That's how absolutely insane this is. And the best part is, Tobin, they take a 17-0 lead after targeting him, 6 times last week? He makes 5 receptions, and then they don't throw the ball to him one more time.
Truly crazy. Truly crazy.
What?
I don't have answers.
What?
We'll get more into that loss, which was, it was a doozy.
Yeah.
Game Day Uncensored is brought to you by the Lexus TX. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. We will take a break here on Game Day Uncensored. Lots to get to. Chris Perkins is going to make his Game Day Uncensored debut. We'll talk to Perk. And then, of course, Omar Kelly, as he always does, joins us in the final hour of our coverage. We get you ready for Dolphins, Chargers, Week 6 of the NFL season. Back with more Game Day Uncensored after this.
I'm Jonah Gadjevich of the Florida Panthers. Congratulations to WQAM on its move to the FM dial at 1.
The pregame show for real Miami football fans on FM 104.3 WQAM.
And welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here, which is brought to you in part by Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC's entire inventory sale. All backed by Morris. Click EdmoreSawgrassBuickGMC.com to start shopping. GMC, we are professional grade. Thank you to Edmore Sawgrass Auto Mall. Miami Dolphins are getting ready for the LA Chargers. Last week, the Dolphins lost to the Carolina Panthers after a 17-0 loss. Dan Day is a producer for us. Dan, what was the reaction on the post-game show after that one? Was that worse? Was it as toxic as the first loss of the season? I felt like the first loss of the season, that made everybody want to jump out of a window. But is it like, was it more acceptance? What was the tone after that game?
Anger and despair, I would say.
Oof.
But, hope springs eternal today. I'm serious. I'm optimistic, like most Dolphin fans.
I don't think so. I don't know.
We took about 40 calls in 3 hours, and one was positive, saying that Tua played well. And then
it wasn't the worst game I've seen Tua play. Like, Tua played okay. Like, it's just, it's not like great. He played okay.
Positive in what sense? Like, oh, Tua played great. Okay, but you lost. Like,
right? No. It was positive.
What was the take?
In the take was actually, it wasn't extremely positive, but it was more positive than the rest of the calls. It was Tua played good. It's not his fault that we lost. That was a positive call.
So those are the people who are just like Tua fans or whatever. Like, I feel like, Tobin, there's Dolphins fans, and
right.
you're gonna ride with the Dolphins because that's your team, right? But then there's people who became Tua fans, and then you have Tuanon, and then people who just love to hate Tua. So it doesn't matter what the Dolphins do. They just want to spew their take on either side of the aisle on Tua. They want to be right about what they said about Tua. I feel like there's still people in that category.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, Tua doesn't get another record for played pretty good in a loss. Like, that doesn't exist. Just like it didn't exist. Like, if Tua won a game where it was all defense, like, he gets the win there. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's one of those things where, yes, he played better. Nice bomb to Jalen Waddle. But I think the thing that was disappointing is, it was funny. I had my family over. I was cooking for my family. My mom was like, "Oh, you think the Dolphins still have a chance here?" She's just walking in. I'm like, two things are going to happen here on this drive. Tua's either going to get throw a pick, or he's going to get sacked to holy hell. And it was the latter. But it just, you're so used to it at this point on last drive for your life, what's going to happen with the offense. And it's either, he's going to make a colossal mistake that's going to be put together with just a big offensive line failure, which even some of the end of the game picks have been. Like, he's gotten killed because the right guard got blown up. It's just all too predictable. The thing that was disappointing about this game, I will say, he's not the most disappointed about this game by a long shot, because what that defense did in this game was so embarrassing and has been embarrassing all season. But to give up 200 yards rushing to their backup running back, I don't give a rat's ass if Rico Dowdle had 1,000 yards last year. Giving up 200 yards to anybody is demoralizing. You give it up to Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, it's a demoralizing thing. But to give it up to a guy who wasn't even top of the depth chart for the Panthers is like that's so incredibly humiliating. And I just don't know how that gets fixed, because you came into this year with a pretty flawed build on that defense. And I just, I think we were hopeful that the pressure was going to get there and they were going to cause havoc, and just none of that has happened. No game can be dictated on the Dolphins' terms.
Tobin, nobody, in my opinion, has lost more, I don't want to say respect, but has lost more of like their aura coming into the season with the fan base than Anthony Weaver. Has just lost like credibility, I guess is the right word, because coming into the season, look, people had their thoughts on Mike McDaniel already. People had their thoughts on Tua. There were some people still wanting to give these guys a shot, still wanting to put some hope in there. But there was also a lot of people, I think, that felt like McDaniel, his time was up. Coming into the season, I'm saying, obviously everybody feels a certain way about the general manager and even the quarterback. With that being said, Anthony Weaver, there was still some unknown about him, right? There was still some, wow, this guy could potentially be a head coach. People have flirted with the idea of him being a head coach in the past. And if the ship doesn't get righted by the current head coach, I think Anthony Weaver was option number A to become the next guy, at the very least in the short time. In the short time. I say all this because nobody can step up in front of a podium and tell people that his players are going to be more, and he chose this word, violent. The V word. You can't step up in front of the podium and tell people that your team is going to be more violent and almost give us your resume for that head coaching job. And then 2 games later, your defense comes out. And what's the opposite of violent, Tobin? Just
meek.
Just
meek,
there,
soft.
existing. I mean, that was the most disgusting, embarrassing, humiliating display of a defense that I've ever seen. And to do it against the Carolina Panthers and their backup running back was just so humiliating, was just so despicable, was just so ridiculous that Anthony Weaver, in my opinion, after that, loses all that type of credibility where he just walks up to a podium and he inspires belief. I don't want to hear it anymore. Sure, he's a good dude, definitely menacing when he talks behind or into a microphone, but I just don't believe it because you can't use that word, that specific word, especially if you know your team's just not capable of it. You can't say we're going to be violent from here on out and then give up 200 plus yards to the backup running back in Carolina, who we all thought was the worst team in the NFL. We all thought was the worst organization in the NFL. Just ridiculous. Embarrassing.
Yeah, no, it is embarrassing. Look, I give him some leeway because I think he's just trying to say things because he knows he has a horsebleed built defense, right? Like that defensive line with Kenneth Grant, who we'll get more into, but like is very clearly not ready. And that secondary finally had like their, that's what happens when you get scrap heap guys all over the place. Surprising it was against the Panthers, but we now got the realization, that's why Jack Jones has been on a gazillion teams. And Jack Jones has been pretty good, but that's why, is because like he gets too emotional and he gets grabby. And so we got to look at that. You know, all of the flaws that you would worry about with that team, it got more than exposed. And so look, it's a badly constructed defense. I do think Anthony Weaver last year made a little magic happen with a defense last year that also had its flaws. No safeties, basically had a rookie pass rusher, and that was it because everybody else wasn't ready to go. So you can only ask him to perform so many miracles, but I'm with you. I am getting so tired of him, McDaniel, Tua, every one of these guys getting on the podium and just being like, these guys wax poetic every single week and just have so many things to say, and it's just all hollow. And yeah, you know, losing is going to highlight that stuff even more. That's the risk you run when you won't stop yammering up there. And then even this week where he made Leroy nearly jump out of the out of the StreamYard because of just his, only 4 of those runs went for 140. And I was like, what? Dude, you said that out loud?
Crazy.
That's an inside thought, Weaves.
Crazy.
Really, really tough. I mean, they very clearly over the last couple of weeks have made a point to get turnovers because they started the first 3 weeks not getting turnovers. And, kind of worked out, but I thought a lot of that respectfully, I don't feel like they forced those turnovers. I felt like Bryce Young gave them those turnovers. I felt like that was.
Yeah, I mean the fumble on Bryce Young, you get to the quarterback, you force that turnover. I'm willing to give them that, right? I mean,
kind of, but he kind of got scared and like just let go of the football.
But
it's crazy that guy came back to win because he looked like he didn't want to be on a football field.
Well, what's crazy is that you gave up a game-winning drive to Bryce Young. I mean, that in itself is crazy. I'm somebody who hitched my wagon on our afternoon drive show to Bryce Young just because for bleeps and giggles. And it got to a point where it was just exhausting. It was humiliating to be on the Bryce Young brigade. And I ditched the wagon 2 weeks ago before the Dolphins played the Panthers because I've been watching a lot of Carolina Panthers football. And I'm like, outside of Chuba Hubbard, man, Bryce Young.
Why are you watching? This is like you really were just for this Bryce Young take. You were watching a lot of Carolina Panthers football.
Yeah, I commit to a bit. I really do. Gameday, I've been on the Bryce Young train for a while.
You owe Valentina an apology, man.
And
she goes, "You're not watching the Panthers, like your hockey team. You're watching the Carolina Panthers."
Carolina Panthers. And now that there's no more Meow Mix podcast available, I got to do my own research, Tobin.
I understand.
I mean, he's genuinely not good. Genuinely, this is somebody. Take my word for it. This is somebody who is not going to be a franchise quarterback in Carolina very long. And there's a reason for that. I mean.
Dan gives the timeout when he had no timeouts was great.
How's that not a penalty?
Basketball, it is. It's
it's Chris Webber.
That's crazy.
Were you upset, Tobin, with the decision to punt at the end of the game? Tua gets sacked.
Hated it. Because here's why. Let me tell you why. Solana, Tua's converted big fourth downs in his career. Okay. I understand. Like he has.
Okay.
Tua can get a 20-yard conversion. There's 0% chance with like 40 seconds left. He's going the length of the field. Something's going to go awry there. And I felt it was a relent. I felt like for me, the Mike McDaniel I know, Mike McDaniel's going for it. He's going to trust his offense because I think he's got to know, oh, okay, I call these timeouts. Tua gets the ball back with 45 seconds left at best. And I got to trust my defense, which has been terrible. I just felt like it was tapping out. I didn't like it. Wasn't even the case of are they going to win or they're not going to win. I just feel like if you're going to have any chance to win, you certainly have a better chance of converting a 4th and 18, whatever it was, than you do getting the ball back and having to go 90 yards. It's not going to happen. So you might as well try and have some. You got to have something in that bag. You throw it down the middle because Tua's not converting a Hail Mary. Tua's not going to be in a position. Let's say Tua gets to midfield with no time left. It's a sunk game. You're going to have to need a Miami, Kenyon Drake miracle to win that game. So that's why I didn't like the decision, because you're better off because of the situation of your QB to try and just convert this one play to keep the drive going, keep your timeouts, than you are giving the ball back to a terrible defense and hoping and praying that you have seconds left. I thought, for me, it wasn't even a game time decision. It was Mike McDaniel tapping out. That's why I didn't like it.
Terrible defense that can't stop the run. And in that situation, you know what the opponent's going to do. Look, here's the thing. I feel like at this point, we just play the result on all those things. Technically, that was the right football decision. It was. You have 3 timeouts. You're backed up deep in your own territory. It's 4th and 17, 4th and 18, whatever it ended up being. Yeah. I mean, you're not converting that. I have zero trust, Tobin, in this offense to convert that at this very moment in the game. They had the one good drive where Tua hits Waddle on that touchdown. Fantastic. Like, hats off to Tua. Great throw, great route by Waddle. You took the lead. But before that, I mean, the offense was anemic.
No, of course it was.
Couldn't convert a first down, and in large part it's because they had zero success running the football. And I'd love to hear your take on that. I don't know if the Dolphins just went away from it. I don't know if they just couldn't run the ball because of, the ineptitude of the offensive line. I don't know exactly what it was. I know, Frank Smith and McDaniel kind of addressed it a little bit, but overall, Tobin, I have zero faith in this offense to convert in that moment, a 4th and 18 on their own 20 or 30-yard line. So I understand. I'm not saying you're wrong. I get what you're saying. You go for it there. You're not getting the ball back anyways. But theoretically, it's the right play. It's the right football move. And I don't think Mike McDaniel has a lot of trust in Tua converting a 4th and 18 anymore. Well, this isn't 2023.
I think that's the disappointment. It's not about whether it's the right football decision or not, or playing the result. I think that's the point. This is a guy who always had faith in his quarterback. That's what his career was built off of. And now he's at a point where he doesn't even trust him to get a 4th down, long as it may be, because Solana, there's zero chance if they get the ball back, which they didn't, but if they get the ball back, that Tua's going the length of the field. There's just no shot that's happening outside of them getting a crazy turnover or something like that. So to me, it was a frustration decision. It wasn't really a decision of, oh, we're making the right football call. That's why I didn't like it, because this team, yeah, they still do have Jalen Waddle, throw to Darren Waller, make something happen. Tua, if we can all agree here, if you have no faith in Tua or you have no faith in the offense, the likelihood of them just making a 20-yard play happening or having to go 90 yards in 40 seconds, what's more likely to happen? And that's why I didn't like it. And that's why I can't stand for that decision. But it's fine. It doesn't matter. I think it all just kind of shows where they're at. He doesn't have faith anymore. He looks after the game like the sad video of him walking through the tunnel. So sad, because he doesn't have faith in his team anymore, and he shouldn't. They're terrible. They've done nothing to reward his faith.
That was so sad, man. That was that was just a look of a beaten down man. Tobin, it's funny with the Chargers in town today. Just how you're describing this team over the first 5 weeks of the season, it feels like the Phillip Rivers led San Diego Chargers, because death taxes, and during the Phillip Rivers era, towards the end especially, Phillip Rivers and the Chargers are going to have the ball, down a score, 0 timeouts, needing to go the length of the football field to either tie or win the game. And it's kind of the position the Dolphins, outside of week 1, it's the position they've been in every single week. Think about it. Week 2, Tua throws the pick to against New England. Week 3, short week, Thursday Night Football, Tua throws the pick against the Buffalo Bills. Both situations the exact same. And then, fast forward to Carolina, and you're in the exact same position as well.
Yeah, and you just I don't know who's felt good about it in any position. You're just like, oh, it's not only gonna end, it's just gonna end in disaster. Not even like a meek 3 and out. It's like, oh no, this is gonna be colossally bad. So, it is what it is right now. That will flip us on to just how hot is Mike McDaniel's seat. A lot of national reports this week about the future of the Dolphins head coach as he goes into this game against the LA Chargers. We'll take a break. More to come here on Gameday Uncensored after this.
I'm AJ Greer of the Florida Panthers. Congratulations
Catch us on FM 104.3 or listen to WQAM on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps. Don't miss a thing.
Now, let's get back to Game Day Uncensored. The pregame show for real Miami football fans on FM 104.3 WQAM.
And welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here on FM 104.3 WQAM as we take you guys up until this 1 o'clock kick from Hard Rock Stadium. Chris Perkins going to make his Game Day Uncensored debut next hour. We'll talk to Perk, Miami Dolphins reporter from the Sun Sentinel, and then we'll go Herald as we have Omar Kelly joining us in the final hour of today's show. We'll get you ready for every angle of this game. Solana, a lot of reports this week about Mike McDaniel's job security. Before that, though, let's hear from McDaniel this week as he was asked about his conversations with the boss, Stephen Ross, post-Panthers loss.
Yeah, he was really frustrated at the, just like he was as I was, and we talked about the challenge ahead to get ready for the Chargers, and that was kind of the extent of it.
Brilliant. You think you got a don't lose or else in that situation, in that conversation? Because it's so weird, Solana. Like we have like varying reports this week. There are reports from Tony Pauline that say, hey, McDaniel's on very thin ice, as hot as the seat can get. And then you have other reports from like ESPN, Jeremy Fowler this week saying moderately hot. Mike McDaniel's really liked by Stephen Ross. Maybe his kids are involved in the process. The thing that's the X factor here is the home game, is it not? Like we're going to be in this position where there's going to be possibly planes flying again. There could be empty seats. There could be a lot of booing, so like those things can always, they can always make a decision come quicker than maybe even the owner wants, even if he really likes Mike McDaniel. He's got 2 years left. He just signed an extension. He's got 2 years left after this year. But I don't know, man. Like it does feel like his job is in as much danger as it's ever been.
Yeah, I mean, look at the team's record, Tobin, And look, this is just the process in the NFL. If you're going to make sweeping changes to your organization, typically, person who gets the axe first, it's the guy on the sideline. It's the head coach. It's typically the way that it goes. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't think, Tobin, it happens unless there's some sort of dramatic blowout. You know what I mean? Like if the Dolphins get embarrassed at home, I could see it leading to something of that nature where Stephen Ross steps in and tomorrow morning we hear, that McDaniel's no longer the head coach. But I don't think this team will get blown out that way. Not just to the Chargers. I just don't think they'll get blown out to most teams that they play. And I don't think just a typical loss leads to it, because I think the Dolphins can win a game like this. I think the Dolphins are perfectly suited at home, great conditions today, to win a game like this, where they're playing a team who, by the way, everybody fell in love with the Los Angeles Chargers week 1.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, they've been the definition of mid. They're coming off a 2-game losing skid where they're dealing with a lot of the same issues the Dolphins are, mostly due to injury. It's a better roster over there. Their quarterback hasn't been outstanding either. Their run game has disappeared due to injury. They're missing their 2 starting tackles, and they're relying on guys who likely wouldn't be starting anywhere at the start of a season to be a starting right or left tackle. This is a type of game where I could see the Dolphins competing in and winning.
All things we said about the Panthers last week, though.
Oh no, for sure. But that's who this team is, right? They're gonna lose most of the games that they play. I think at this point we've established that. There's a large enough sample size, but they're also going to be in games against other teams who are just okay, who are just mediocre. And right now, it's kind of where I put this Chargers team, mostly because of injury. They're just fine. They're not great. They're not Super Bowl contenders. They're a fringe playoff team. They're a wild card team, wild card contender. The Dolphins can hang with those teams, Tobin. Man, just a loss today, a competitive game, right? A loss today, I don't think gets McDaniel fired. I don't think that's how hot his seat is. And look, I could be wrong, but from everything we've heard, we've talked to Omar Kelly a billion times about this. Stephen Ross doesn't like the hiring process. From everything we've heard from reports, not Tony Pauline included, because I don't know where that came from. Patience is the key word here from the higher ups, where they're not looking to make these sweeping changes now. I don't think Stephen Ross wants to move on from McDaniel or Greer now. I think if there is going to be a change, it would be at the end of the season.
Yeah, look, I think ideally that's what they would want, but I think you have, a bunch of home games that you still are going to have. You got a Spain trip. Now, I don't know like what the sale process of all these are, if people have already, sunk into them, but people got to renew for season tickets too. They come a calling before the season's over to have you come back for the next year. And if it's status quo, if the Dolphins look like they're not doing anything, yeah, I could definitely see that. The other thing that was interesting that was reported this week, I think it was by Jeremy Fowler, was, that he said Stephen Ross's sons were involved. I don't know if that's a son-in-law or if he meant daughter, but it does feel like maybe Stephen Ross is also relenting some control because he's getting old. He's getting old. He's trying to revamp Palm Beach. He's got other fish to fry, dude. And maybe the football isn't exactly going to be, the thing that he's putting all of his energy effort in because he's been bad at it. I do think this is going to be an interesting matchup though, because, okay, we've talked about the injuries. The Dolphins have their own injuries too. Well then, okay, who can coach up their injuries? Well, we have the situation we're going up against with Jim Harbaugh, who, Stephen Ross loves Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Flew across the country to try and get him as his Dolphins coach, coached his favorite college to a national championship, never really got him. He would love it if he was on any other NFL team. He would love Jim Harbaugh. When I thought Brian Flores, when Brian Flores was fired, I thought they were going to get Jim Harbaugh. So if Jim Harbaugh does beat Mike McDaniel with all the injuries that you discussed, I could still see that being like, you know what? This isn't the guy that I want. This isn't the guy who's going to do it anymore. He was a plan B all along anyway, Mike McDaniel. Now, had good success out of the gate, but I do think that there would be something there. Now, does any of it matter if Chris Greer is here still, though? Like, that's the other thing is if he just does the coach, does that fix anything? Because if you're going to let Chris Greer pick the next guy again, how are we going to get out of this cycle of doom, as the great Robbie the Degenerate said?
It's why my focus continues to be on Chris Greer more than Mike McDaniel. I understand the frustration with the head coach. Don't get me wrong. How just ridiculous it was last year when you lose Tua and those 4 games. I think I brought this up to you last week. Like, that's where I kind of knew, hey, I don't think this guy's suited to be a head coach just yet. I don't think he's going to be a great head coach. But Tobin, I look at the offensive line last week. Dolphins can't run the football. And I'm saying, man, okay, Mike McDaniel has to figure it out. Fine, he's the head coach. These are the ingredients you've been given. Go cook something up. Go whip something up. But you're asking somebody to run the football behind an offensive line that literally can't block. How? Like, explain that to me. How do you get that done? And to me, it's more of a roster issue. You got your team in a position where you're up 17, and the defense is getting gashed in the second half. You look at the Chargers, right? They're down men up front. They're relying on guys that aren't very good to block Justin Herbert. They can't establish a pass game right now that's consistent, and they can't really run the football because their 2 running backs were bagging groceries a month ago. So what do? Well, they try to rely on their defense to keep them in games. And for the most part, it's worked outside of giving up 27 points to the Commanders. The Dolphins can't do that, Tobin. They can't rely on their defense. So McDaniel's in this position where he can't rely on his defense. There's been zero progress and zero improvement made by the defense. He loses his number 1 weapon, and his offensive line is a shell of what it's supposed to be. And if you're a head coach, I could see him looking to Stephen Ross and saying, what do you want me to do with this? Look at the guy who's supposed to be building me a roster good enough for me to compete, and this is what I'm dealing with.
Yeah,
to me, it falls more on Chris Grier than it does on Mike McDaniel. I'm not saying McDaniel is absolved of blame. Just hear me out here. I'm just saying, to me, when you're ranking the order of which blame should be handed down to, Chris Grier is 1A, 1B, 1C to me.
Mm-hmm. I don't even know if I disagree with that. I think I think that he's been here since the entirety of the Dolphins deciding to tank and blow it up, and that's alongside Brian Flores, to this. Like, he's been here long. I mean, he's been in the organization for 20 plus years. Like, he's been here forever, which makes me feel like he's never going to leave. I just think he's good at keeping his job. I think that's the thing. People will talk about the Brian Flores thing, and that's that the skeleton in the closet. There could be some of that, but I just think he's a likable guy. I think everybody says he's a very decent man. I think that, he's obviously got a great relationship with Stephen Ross, and I don't think that Stephen Ross likes firing those people. And he's not the guy. He doesn't have to talk all the time. Like, we all kind of know that Chris Grier sucks, but he only has to talk 2-3 times a year, maybe 4. Mike McDaniel's got to talk 4 times a week. And by the way, not the greatest orator either. Like, he's not a guy that exactly eases the tensions of things. He seems to almost buffer up on the podium. And so that's not going to give anybody any confidence. And so I feel like that's kind of the easy move. And this is what Stephen Ross has always done. He's always done half firings. He's done that with Philbin. He's done that with Ireland. He's done that when they've tried to shuffle the organization. He's always done that. Back to when, ironically, Jim Harbaugh, when he was trying to go after him, and he makes Jeff Ireland get on the plane with him when Jeff Ireland and Tony Sperano were boys, and basically breaks a relationship right there and then. What a weird press conference to be at, Solana. When I was in that was one of the most tense rooms. When I was in that boardroom with Sperano, got the "I'm sorry" extension, and Ross is trying to explain, I didn't know you guys could track my flights. It's just his MO. He's gonna end up sticking with one of these guys, and if he's gonna stick with one of these guys, it's probably gonna be Chris Grier, not Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, no, I get it. I understand the hierarchy in the situation, and look, the reality is they moved on from Brian Flores. You mentioned the B word. They move on from Brian Flores because, from what we understand, aside from the fact that he wasn't easy to work with the owner, Chris Grier just didn't like him. Right? They weren't able to, for whatever reason, mesh together. And I think Stephen Ross stuck by his boy, stuck by his guy. And that was Chris Grier, who's been his guy for a very long time. But, it's all exacerbated today with the Chargers in town, specifically because of Herbert and Tua. But I don't know. I just don't know how you can look at the state of the Miami Dolphins, at the decisions that were made coming into the season, where you lose an NFL legend on the defensive line, and you say, yeah, a rookie is going to be able to help alleviate the loss there.
Right, and especially this guy picking the rookies.
Right. I mean, you look at the guys you've traded up for, who are either A, not available, or B, and Jonah Savatinaya, clearly not ready to play football. And then, aside from the fact that you draft somebody who's clearly not ready to start in the NFL, that you traded up for, you allow the team to move him out of his position, which I know we're going to get into, for some long-term project, when you weren't very weird. You weren't in a position to have projects this year. This was supposed to be, hey, this era is still alive and well. This era is still kicking. And they didn't go all in. They didn't use the resources available to them that they could have with some maneuvering of the cap. And instead, just felt like, hey, we're going to fill some holes with some of these young guys. And it's fallen flat on its face, Tobin. And I don't know how anybody could look at this disaster of a roster and say Mike McDaniel needs to be the person to get the axe for this. To me, it's a scapegoat move. It's got to be the man up top.
We'll take a break here on Game Day Uncensored. We'll get into that issue of having the rookies needing to step up, which they have not, as Game Day Uncensored rolls on after this.
I'm Mario Cristobal, head coach of the Miami
Omar Kelly and Chris Perkins on FM 104.3 WQAM, Miami's sports leader.
Gameday Uncensored on FM 104.3 WQAM is brought to you by the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models now through September 2nd. Learn more at Lexus.com. Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet. When it comes to scoring a rugged new truck, Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet is the MVP of selection. Visit EdmoreSawgrassChevrolet.com and start shopping today. Remember, you're always backed by Morse. And by JM Lexus. JM Lexus has the best team in the business. A 4.8 Google rating with over 22,000 reviews and counting. JM Lexus, West Sample Road, Margate.
And welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here on FM 104.3 WQAM. Brendan Tobin here alongside Alejandro Solana. Dan Day producing for us here today. You'll be able to hear on Game Day Uncensored post-game edition. So get it ready because it could be a real firestorm there. Dolphins getting ready to take on the LA Chargers here today at Hard Rock Stadium. So shout out to everybody who's on their way to the game. You are bold. And you are the diehards.
I don't agree.
Maybe you just want to get
fun. I think it's fun still.
It is fun. It is. Maybe you just want to get drunk as a skunk with your friends. I don't know.
I would love to be at a tailgate right now, Tobin, popping out the grill, burning some burgers, burning some dogs, and throwing out a couple brews. I would love to be doing that and waiting for the inevitable flyover of Fire Career, Fire McDaniel, Bench Tua, whatever the banner's gonna say today.
I will say, like, my grandfather and I, when we had season tickets going to we went to the 1-15 season, and misery does love company. It does help.
Yep.
You're in your pocket with the same people all the time, and
yep,
it does help. It does help. It eases the pain. So I hope everybody does have a good time. Somebody who's not having a good time right now are the Dolphins' top two picks. Kenneth Grant, Jonah Savaiinaia. There was a crazy tweet this week from Barry Jackson that put out the metrics that says they're not only bad, they are metrically the worst.
Yeah.
The worst at their positions.
Literally, these guys are the two worst players at their positions. Like literally, it's fair to say that.
That to me is almost like Chris Greer. Like that's his Sistine Chapel. You want to talk about like, hey, we just cut Cam Smith. He was the first pick in a draft, and he really did nothing for us. You want to talk about Noah Igbenogany and just really like blowing 3 first-round picks like you never have. Maybe taking the worst quarterback in a draft, taking a right tackle who can't stay on the field, and a cornerback who never played for you. Maybe that's a tough one to beat. I mean, that could be his starry night. But man, this one could be up there. You're like, hey, we're gonna go full need. These guys are going to step in. They're going to support us in places we need, and they've just been not up to the task at all.
Tobin, it goes beyond that tweet from Barry Jackson. I recommend this kind of goes back to the conversation we were having last hour at the very end. I recommend anybody who wakes up this morning and your biggest gripe with this Dolphins team is Tua Tagovailoa, or your biggest gripe with this Dolphins team is Mike McDaniel. I highly recommend going and reading the entire article written by Barry Jackson, where he highlights not just the shortcomings of this draft with Kenneth Grant and Jonah Savaiinaia. He highlights Chris Greer's tenure as a general manager, trading up for guys, and how the results of said trades in a draft have panned out. And I'm going to read to you from Barry Jackson's article, just the two on Savaiinaia and Kenneth Grant. But again, this is a long article where Barry very well highlights and details all of the failures from Chris Greer and the positive ones. There just happens to be more failures.
Just a lot more failures.
A lot more. But he writes of 121, again, this is in the Miami Herald, of 121 qualifying defensive tackles, rookie first-round pick Kenneth Grant entered Sunday, ranked 120th, ahead of only Ravens' former fifth-round pick Broderick Washington.
Jeez.
Savaiinaia, Barry Wright, who permitted 2 sacks on Sunday, has not only been the worst rookie guard in football, but the worst guard, period, according to PFF. And left tackle Patrick Paul has been a whiz at pass protection, but PFF ranks him among the worst run-blocking tackles in football. and he struggled in that area on Sunday. He writes, Savaiinaia has permitted more quarterback pressures than any guard in the league. And entering last Sunday, Pro Football Focus gave only 3 guards a grade below 40. Undrafted rookie for the Saints, Torricelli Simpkins.
That's not a real guy.
36.7. The Dolphins, Keon Smith at 35.2. And he writes, Jonah Savaiinaia, whose 28.5 rating would be among the worst of the modern era. I mean, we're talking about, as of now, through 5 games, Jonah Savaiinaia having the worst PFF rating in the modern era of any player. I mean, how?
How did you draft somebody worse than Eichenberg? How's that possible?
I mean, how?
How's that possible?
He traded up for him. And again, Barry, he details like guys who were taken before, guys who were taken after, rather than trading up, costing you capital later on in the draft, where production and how it looked at the spot the Dolphins were originally in. And he compares and he contrasts the guys the Dolphins didn't take and who they overlooked. And look, I understand it's easy. Again, it's easy to play the result. I get that. But when the track record is as egregious as it is now with Grier, it's a part of the job, bro. It's a part of the job. This is a results-based business. And if you don't produce results, people are going to go back and they're going to look at your track record and they're going to look at who else was available. And if those guys have been producing, which most of the time for the Dolphins they have, it's going to reflect poorly on you.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to talk about like what is Chris Grier's, strength as a GM, it's probably like a home run blockbuster trades. Like the thing you're not going to get, and maybe like finding undrafted corners. But if you're going to say like building, like if you're going to define what is Chris Grier's Achilles heel out of all of his Achilles heels, offensive line has definitely been like the thing. And it's crazy, dude. I don't know if I'll ever have a worse take than the over-under on how much this line's going to play together. But right now, we're staring down the barrel of 2 backups on the right side. I got Aaron Brewer sitting here with half a peck, he's not going to be able to push anybody. He barely can snap right now. I have the worst guard in football and Patrick Paul, who's seemed pretty good. All right. He seems like he's off to a pretty good start, but that's 4 offensive linemen that are either hurt or terrible, and holy crap, what a disaster.
What'd you say, Tobin? 14 games is what you put the over-under at for the offensive line to be healthy. I love this text, by the way. I'm going to put it up here. He's a rookie, Solana. You sucked your first week at 790, bro. And look, that's a very good point. I was the equivalent of the worst PFF rating on my first week in radio, probably my first 5 years in radio. But to be fair, Tobin, 790, 560, Entercom, Odyssey didn't trade up for me. I was a 7th round pick. They settled for me. They didn't trade up for me.
This is what it would be like, though. It would be like Len being like, hey, either we have a successful ratings book or we're turning into Radio Libre next week. And Solana is fresh out of college and he needs to be our drive time host. Yeah. And he needs to succeed. He needs to and he's going to be by himself, and that's it. We'll give you Jimmy. Like he'll produce for you, but that's it, Solana. It's you or us, and we're a Spanish station. Like that's it. And so like that, yeah. I mean, I get it. I'm not sitting here saying Savaiinaia is a bust. I'm not sitting here calling for Kenneth Grant. I'm just saying it's pretty crazy. Like, it's not only that you want to have you need these rookies to contribute, but they're so not ready to contribute. They're the worst.
Right. And look, Kenneth Grant might end up being, I told you last week, Tobin, and the numbers have gotten even worse for Grant, and he had a really bad week post that Carolina Panthers game. I'm not telling you this guy is a bust. I'm not there yet. I don't think it's fair to just say blanket, I'm done with Savaiinaia, I'm done with Kenneth Grant. I don't think that's fair. We've seen a lot of examples on this roster, by the way, of guys who the rookie season just it didn't work for whatever reason, and later on they find a role, they find success, and I do expect that from these guys. To me, it has more to do with the general manager picking these guys and putting them in positions to fail, putting them in positions where they had to make up for a lot or a lack of talent around them when they're just not ready to do that, right? This year, you were without Calais Campbell. You lost Christian Wilkins. You lost Calais Campbell. The idea that you're just going to fill that hole with a rookie, no matter how high he was picked, you have to be damn sure that that kid is mature enough and ready enough for that role, for that job, to be tasked with that much responsibility. You have to be damn sure if you're picking that kid that he's ready for it. And clearly he wasn't. But that was Chris Greer's option anyway. That was his plan anyways. And the same with the offensive line. If that's your plan to replace Liam Eichenberg, if that's your plan to replace Robert Hunt, if that's your plan long term to pair him next to Patrick Paul, you have to be sure that he's ready for that responsibility, that he's ready when you move him from right to left guard. They weren't ready, Tobin. These kids weren't ready to be given that much responsibility.
Well, that's the and that is the maestro that is Chris Greer. Like, he's going to be able to go back to Stephen Ross and be like, look, baby, we tried just rolling with the rookies. You know, they're going to be ready by next year. And he'll sell him on something and be like, you're right, Chris, you're right. When you're right, you're right. We'll just get rid of this coach, you know? He goes, exactly. That's what we'll do. Get rid of the coach. We'll go get that loudmouth from Jacksonville, the defense coordinator. Opposite. Tough.
He was here, Tobin.
He was here.
He was here. He could have been your defensive coordinator.
He could have been.
He could have been the guy.
He told us the universal
tails.
The universal the universal language is kicking ass.
Beautiful. Just poetry, man.
Kenneth Grant, he was asked about Anthony Weaver's comments this week about being sick watching film. Anthony Weaver said that the film made him want to throw up. Here's what Kenneth Grant had to say.
Defensive coordinator said today, watching the film, Carolina running the ball made him sick to his stomach. Do you guys feel that same frustration right now?
Oh yeah, for sure. We feel that same frustration. The main thing we're trying to focus on is just, the run game. That teams are running the ball against us, and we got to fix that. So until we fix that, none of the pass really matters and things like that. So we got to really get the run game.
There you go, Kenneth Grant this week on the frustration.
Have you talked, Tobin, at all about Jalen Ramsey's decision over the past couple weeks on your show? Maybe I missed it, bro. Jalen Ramsey was right. Not that I'm showing any love to Jalen Ramsey, but it just popped in my head. Listening to a rookie. Remember 2 years ago, Jalen Ramsey's talking about the rooks and he's talking about Ethan Bonner. Oh, that makes that makes me want to throw up. But Jalen Ramsey noted something wrong internally with this organization, something wrong internally with this roster before this season, and was like, I got to get the hell out of here. Right. I don't care how much money they paid me. I don't care where I go. This roster is not ready to compete. Bro, he knew it. He knew it. And he wanted to get the hell out. And he got out of Dodge. And a lot of us kind of ripped him for the way he handled it. Rightfully so, by the way. He handled it like a jackass. But bro, this guy was right, man. He was right.
Yeah, he's not the first one either. I mean, like Deshaun Elliott had a lot of those thoughts as well when he was leaving. He's like, it's toxic over there.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. And then I think the thing is with this team, I think Mike McDaniel made a lot of mistakes early on in his coaching career about leeway with star players. That when you lose, it's just not sustainable to allow that stuff to happen, because people are going to go back to you and be like, well, why not? Why now is it a problem? And he just doesn't have the time. He doesn't have the time. He came into a souped up situation of like, hey, this roster could be ready to do some stuff. And he did a decent job of it. But when you face adversity and your quarterback gets hurt, and then all of a sudden you need to, have some foundation. They didn't really have a foundation of anything. That's tough. We'll take a break here on Game Day Uncensored, which is brought to you in part by the Lexus TX. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Chris Perkins from the Sun Sentinel. He joins us next.
I'm Seth Jones of the Panthers. Congratulations to WQAM on its move to the FM dial at 104.3. Congratulations.
on demand. Plus, there's the cool rewind feature where you can listen to any part of any show you might have missed anytime.
Time now for more Game Day Uncensored, the pregame show for real Miami football fans on FM 104.3 WQAM.
And welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here on FM 104.3 WQAM as we get you ready for this 1 o'clock Week 6 kickoff. Dolphins and Chargers from Hard Rock Stadium. And very excited to talk some Fins with Miami Dolphins columnist from the Sun Sentinel, Chris Perkins, joining us there. Perk, no better week to bring in there, dude, than being 1-4 and everybody wanting heads to roll.
Yeah, the banner is already flying over the stadium today, so it is regular season form out here. Hopefully, we get to see something good out here because it's been kind of a bummer in that locker room, as you can imagine.
Is the banner flying already, Perk? What does it say? I didn't see the pictures.
It's I tweeted it, but it's hard to read. It says fire Greer and McDaniel, and then something after it. I couldn't read it, but it was flying. I just walked into the stadium like 10 minutes ago, and the banner was already flying. So, yeah, people are worked up, man. People are passionate about their Dolphins, and they're not seeing what they want to see so far this season.
I think this is I'm looking at it right now. I think it's an ad afterwards.
Is it an ad? Yeah.
It's the first firing banner that's sponsored, apparently.
Yeah. People are getting creative here. Everybody wants a piece of this, huh? It's crazy.
We were talking in the previous segment, Perk, about just the rookies. I feel bad for them because they were put in this really tough position. But what do the Dolphins do here first with Kenneth Grant? Like, this is rough. They're getting run on by backup running backs for $200. Huge expectations for him. Can you fill the void? And he obviously hasn't been ready to rock with this. Do they take snaps away from Kenneth Grant? What's your prediction on what they end up doing with KG?
You got to play the guy as long as you can until it's just an absolute train wreck. And he's not at that stage yet. He's struggling right now, but you absolutely positively cannot go into the next draft wondering, do you need a defensive tackle? You've got to be able to answer that question definitively, yes or no. And you can only know that answer by playing him. So if he needs to play the next 3-4 games for you to get that answer, if he needs to play the whole season for you to get that answer, to me, that's the bottom line. You've got to come out of this season knowing, can this guy play or can't he play? Do we need to go back in and draft another D tackle?
Perk, I won't even wait to get to this because I think it kind of is along the same lines here. You wrote in the Sun Sentinel this week, Mike McDaniel can't return next season definitively. And you write that there's no room left to question what McDaniel can accomplish the rest of the year. He hasn't accomplished anything meaningful. And then you call the McDaniel era, a lost cause. Tobin and I were talking about it earlier. What leads to a McDaniel firing now? What leads to it later this season? And what, ultimately could lead to him just being fired at the end of the season? What's your gut telling you? How does this play out with McDaniel?
Well, to me, as I wrote, the determining factor is when do the players stop listening to Mike? I think the players are always going to like Mike. The players are always going to respect Mike. But at a certain point, they're going to look at each other and go, this dude has led us to 8-9, 11-6, 9-8, and now, you're 1-5 or you're 1-8 or you're, 2-9 or whatever. What he's preaching does not make sense because this team has had enough talent that it should have won a playoff game by now, right? I mean, look at the talent that's walked out the door. Rob Hunt, Christian Wilkins, Calais Campbell, Jalen Ramsey. You're without Tyreek Hill right now, but you've had so much talent on this team. Teron Armstead. I'm not saying they should be Super Bowl contenders. I don't think anybody ever thought that. But they should be at the Baltimore-Buffalo level. And let's face it, Baltimore and Buffalo, right? Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen can't even get to a Super Bowl because of Mahomes. but the Dolphins have had enough talent. They should be at the Baltimore-Buffalo level. You shouldn't be 1-7 against Buffalo. That is inexcusable. The talent gap is not that big. And so I think that players would start looking at that and going, what Mike is preaching is not working. I like him and I respect him, but I can't listen to him anymore. To me, that's the determining factor of when he has to go.
How much of a factor do you think, Perk, is the fans? Because, these home games are going to be interesting every time because, these guys can say, oh, I don't see social media. They can run from press clippings, but you can't ignore what's in front of your eyes. If fans don't show up or they boo, this is our third banner of the month or banner of the season. How much of a factor do you think Stephen Ross is looking at that, season ticket renewals, all of that stuff, if the Dolphins stay status quo?
Yeah, I think it's the stands, the actual butts in seats attendance. It's the season ticket renewal and the sale of the merchandise. Those are the things that I think are going to move Steve Ross. You guys remember, or you might not remember, that 2000 playoff game. Their last playoff victory was not televised locally because they didn't meet that blackout deadline back in the day when they had that back in 2000. I can't remember if it was like 70% of the tickets had to be sold by 4 p.m. on Thursday or whatever it was, and the game would be shown locally. But that's the stage that fans were at. And I think that that's kind of what moves owners, and that's what would move Steve Ross if the fans decided we're not buying into this product anymore through season tickets, actual game attendance, and merchandise. I think that's one of the biggest factors that could drive Steve Ross to make a change.
Perk, my take still on this team hasn't varied much from how I felt about them at the start of the season. I thought, look, they could be a wild card team at the start of the season. That was their ceiling. And, we talked on QAM a couple times, Perk. I felt the same about this team, I think, as you did, where you thought, hey, the ceiling for the team, correct me if I'm wrong, was wild card, but it would be a loss in that wild card game.
Right.
I truthfully didn't expect this team to be, 5-12 in that area where I think a lot of teams nationally did. But from where we're sitting right now, it's hard to argue against it. Is this team capable of winning a game like this? Because I still think they are. I still think they're capable of winning a game against another team that isn't, in my opinion, a Super Bowl contender. As bad as that loss to Carolina made us feel, I don't think this team is going to end up 1-16 this year, Perk. Like, they can win this game today, right?
They should be able to, and that's the whole thing, Solana. So my big thing with the McDaniel era is none of these teams have lived up to their potential. And, again, they should have had a playoff win by now. The 9-8 team in his first year, I know Tua was out, but you should have been a game or two better. The 11-6 team, you should have been a game or two better. Last year, 8-9, you should have been a game or two better. And a lot of this has to do with not having a run game, not having more than one way to win. You guys know what I say about this offense. It was built on two things: Tyreek Hill and the threat of Tyreek Hill. We're going to see what they can do when Tyreek is not out there. But, the offensive line has been weak. You only have one way to win, and that was to Tyreek. And offensive line can't win you games. Your run game can't win you games. Your defense can't win you games. And so to me, this is the big thing with the Mike McDaniel era, is that I don't think that any of these teams have done what they should have done. They've done okay, but I don't think that they've lived up to their talent potential. And so when you look at a game like today, they should be able to win some of these games. But if they don't, it's another case of you aren't playing up to your potential. Look, I thought this was going to be a 9-8 team. I was wrong about that. I thought this front seven was going to be potentially game-changing or game-winning. I was wrong about that. But there's still talent on this team. This is not a 5 or 6 win team. Now, without Tyreek, maybe, you're going to lose a couple of games that you would have won with them. But I don't think that this is as Jalen Phillips said, I don't think it's a dumpster fire as far as talent. They just aren't living up to their potential. And then you've got to point to coaching and go down that line. So that's what I think. They should be able to win a game like today, Salon. And if they don't, you have to keep asking questions.
They're not a dumpster fire, but like they're at least like a barrel, a trash barrel, like that's under a barrel.
can fire.
Like, yeah, there's some type of trash fire. Like maybe not the whole dumpster Perk, but they're getting there, man.
you can handle this with a fire extinguisher. You don't have to call the fire department yet, right? Yeah.
One positive thing I didn't expect was Darren Waller doing anything this year, and he's been awesome.
Yeah.
Do they have to lean more into him? Is he capable of that? Of taking even more on his plate as these weeks go by?
You've got to put more on his plate. You have no choice. Without Tyreek, with the run game struggling, with the offensive line injuries, you've got to find out multiple ways that you can win games, not score, not run up yards, but win games. And you can't have a situation like last week where Waller gets no targets in the second half. You've got to figure this out through coaching. You can't, that's unacceptable. You're 5 for 78 in the first half and no targets in the second half. That's coaching, that's strategy, that's philosophy, and that is unacceptable. What was your best offensive weapon cannot be shut down like that. So Waller they've got to lean on Waller because he's one of the positive things offensively, but you can't let this guy get locked down like that again.
But can you establish a run game, Perk? I mean, I know that was a big thing the other day in Carolina where the Dolphins, they just couldn't generate the type of push they needed because of the injuries to the offensive line. And I'm not even certain, is it going to be Cole Strange today? Like, is that, I don't know if that's been announced. I don't know.
So, yeah, I think so. That's what we've seen all week.
Right. So, I know it's tough to run left because Savat Inaya is going to get blown up. We know that. And then Cole Strange and Larry Borum together, I don't think their PFF ratings put them in the top 50. So, what do you do if you can't establish a run game? Because I'm with you. Let's get the ball to Darren Waller more. Let's get Waddle as involved as he was early in that game the other day and late as well. But if you can't run the football, how does this team generate the type of offense that they need to be able to beat a Chargers team?
You're done if you can't run the football. You've got to, between Ollie Gordon and Devon Achane, you've got to figure out a way to establish a ground threat, because that way your pass game gets better, because then you can throw off of play action, which is really what makes this pass game hum. And we'll have to make it hum without Tyreek. If there's no threat of a run, they're just going to do whatever they need to do to stop the pass. Whether that's playing the two high safeties or whatever, they're going to do whatever they have to do to stop the pass. So, and they're not, without Tyreek, you're not good enough to just force that pass. So you've got to establish a run. And quite honestly, I don't know what the secret to that is other than just banging it. Here's Ollie, here's Achane, here's Malik. Here's Ollie, here's Achane, here's Malik, until it finally breaks through, because you can't be a one-dimensional offense without Tyreek Hill. It's just not going to work.
Perk, what'd you make of the whole Kenneth Grant revelation that coaches are now in player meetings? What the hell is going on over there with all this stuff?
I have no idea. That one really caught me by surprise, because I did a story last November about how they were having all these player-only meetings, and it was usually called by the leadership council, not the team captains. And the leadership council is a bunch of team leaders of different ages, different positions. I think it might be a 6-man group, but they're kind of the conduit from the locker room to Mike McDaniel. But they were clear to me last year. I talked to Teron and Alec Ingold and Zach Sealer and somebody else, but they were very clear that these were player-only meetings. They were called in conference rooms or wherever they could get a spot on the facility. This is something totally different. I've never seen coaches being invited, as Mike McDaniel told us on Friday, to player-only meetings or to player meetings. It's bizarre. It's just bizarre. And look, I'll say this. This is a team that it's kind of thrown together at this point. I was working on a story on the fighting spirit of this team, which this team doesn't quit. And I've always said that under Mike McDaniel, they have their flaws, they have their injuries, whatever, but they don't quit. And I wanted to talk to some players about it. And I was looking around the locker room at one point, and it was like, there's not many guys that have been here for 3 years even, and I talked to Jalen Waddle, but, I was looking at these other guys, and Iffy Melifonwu and Ashton Davis, and just all these, first-year Brunskill, and a lot of these first-year guys. And I was like, wow, this team is really just kind of pieced together right now. That multi-year core of Achane and Chubb and Tua, and it's being chipped away at so much. Durham Smythe not there, Mostert not there. So the team meeting thing and inviting the coaches, I'm very surprised by it. But I think this team is just really grasping for straws. They can't really get a good foothold in which to stop this slide. And so I guess inviting the coaches is just a way to try and get that foothold. But it's a very bizarre step. You just don't hear about that very often. But I guess kind of the newness of this team, the composition of this roster right now, they're just desperate. They're looking for anything to find an answer.
What a time right now. Chris Perkins, appreciate you stopping by on Game Day Uncensored.
Yeah, great debut,
check out his
Perk.
work. Great debut,
man.
Go check out Perk's work in the Sun Sentinel, and glad to have you along for the rest of the year, Perk.
All right, guys. Hopefully it gets better, right? Hopefully it gets better.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk next week. See you.
There you go, Chris Perkins. We'll take a break here on Game Day Uncensored. Back with more for this.
I'm Sam Bennett of the Florida Panthers. Congratulations
Game Day Uncensored. The pregame show for real Miami football fans on FM 1043 WQAM.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here on FM 1043 WQAM. As we take you guys up until this 1 o'clock kick from Hard Rock Stadium. Banners are flying. Unbelievable. What a time we're having right now, everybody. It really is. It is a sight to behold right now where the Miami Dolphins are at. Thanks to Chris Perkins for stopping by. Omar Kelly will join us later on in the program as we get you closer to this week 6 matchup. Right now, we have one game going on over in London, Broncos and Jets, and currently the Broncos are up 10-6 on the New York Jets.
Yeah. I'm watching it. I do like doing this show while there's football going on. I do enjoy that.
Yeah, it's and also always with the Jets' loss as they are trying to avoid becoming 0-6. But right now, Bo Nix dealing 15-20 for 125 yards and a touchdown for those who have him in fantasy. His touchdown to Nate Adkins. So that is where Denver has started off so far. Justin Fields, not great. 3 of 5. 9 yards, 1 of 6 yards rushing, 1 carry for 6 yards rushing. Yeesh.
Yeah, well, kind of carved up the Dolphins a little bit. I mean, today Dolphins won the game. They did kind of carve them up a little.
I mean, yeah, but that's kind of showing where we're at right now. The Dolphins needed everything and every Jets mistake to get their lone win of the season. So I don't know. It's tough right now, but it is that time of the show where we kind of take a look back at some of the sound bites of the week, some things that maybe don't deserve their own segment, but together they are strong. We refer to this as echolocation.
It's time for echolocation.
That is how Dolphins communicate.
It's okay to be called out as long as you change your behavior.
What's 1,000 yards if it's not like a winning season?
They talk, we do.
Echolocation.
That quote will never not make me laugh. They talk, we do.
It's incredible. It's incredible. So the Miami Dolphins, we talked a little bit about this with Perk, but Kenneth Grant during his media session this week, he revealed that coaches are now sitting in on players-only meetings. Here was the Dolphins rookie.
Right. Well, we take more time out of the day to meet. Player-led meetings. Some of the player-led meetings our coaches are in now. So just finding extra meeting time and getting on the same page with our teammates and things like that.
Oh man! All right, totally normal. Nothing to see here, everybody.
You have to imagine there's going to be a bit of media training coming for the youngster, right?
Oh, well, listen, I don't think he should be singled out. This entire team needs media training. This entire team just lets it fly. They're just yeah, whatever. Fans, schmans, One of those guys is the quarterback who's just he's so honest. He just doesn't know when to stop talking. But he was asked this week about relationships within the draft class. Is he friends with Herbert or Love or Burro? Obviously, he's got some relationship with Jalen Hurts. They played together, but this is what Tua had to say on the relationship with his draft class.
I haven't really had too much communication with a lot of the guys in my draft class. Everyone's in a different stage in their lives, right? Some are married, some aren't married. I don't know, maybe some dating supermodels, some not. I don't know, So everyone's in different stages of their lives. And so I would say haven't really kept in contact with any of them.
All right. There you go. Strange.
What's he talking about?
I think Justin Herbert is now dating a supermodel. I don't know who she is, as the kids. I don't keep up with the latest supermodels. Are you aware of who she is, Dan Day? I have no idea. Maybe you look like you know who she is.
I'm looking it up. Hold up.
I don't know. I have no idea who his new
Madison Beer. No, she's a musician.
Oh, okay.
No. I know Joe Burrow was dating a Sports Illustrated model. Yeah. I do know that.
Okay.
But
that's how we do it at LSU.
I don't know what his current situation is, but I know he was at one point. But either way, Tobin, I mean, wasn't really the question. Like they're not asking him, "Hey, are you going on double dates to Chuck E. Cheese with the fam?" Like, just, hey, do you keep up with any of these guys? And I mean, clearly he doesn't.
I guess not. No, listen, Tua, just family man. In case you guys haven't known, Tua has a family. Loves his family. It's a great family man.
Love that for him.
Tua's made it clear.
Nothing wrong with that, by the way. Nothing wrong with that.
Tua should just go up there every week and be like, by the way, guys, I'm a family man. Love my family.
Did you guys know that I love spending time with my family?
I love my family. So, like, dude, we get it. Hey, I'm happy for you, dude. You know? I just want everybody to know yesterday, went to the pumpkin patch. Great time. Definitely not with Sports Illustrated models. You know, like, all right, good, whatever. Minka Fitzpatrick, he was asked this week if he has heard any of the fan outrage online, and this is what Minka had to say on that.
Minka, I'm sure you could figure fans aren't happy right now. I'm wondering if you're aware of their feelings through social media or interactions with them, and what you think about that.
No, I'm not really aware. I don't pay attention to none of that. Learned that lesson a long time ago. My first tenure here.
Glad we can all laugh at it now. It wasn't very funny back in the day when you wanted off the team.
Yeah.
He definitely is like, man, you think he's like, because we're seeing like now all the trade rumors are starting to kick up a little bit. Solana, you know, there's reports from Ian Rappaport and others that like, hey, you know, a lot of teams got their eye on Bradley Chubb. You think like Minka Fitzpatrick is hoping somebody comes and just rescues him from this?
Yeah, but he's not getting traded. They paid him. They gave him a little sweetener. They're not trading Minka Fitzpatrick. I think he realizes that. But my feeling with him since he's gotten here has kind of been like he's kind of here. You know, he fine. I'll put on the pads. I'll put on the jersey. I'll play. But I hate it. I hate everything about being here. And then, you know, you listen to that, and it just sounds like somebody who's like, yeah, I knew what the deal was coming here. This organization is a dumpster fire, and it is going to be what it's going to be. And that's what it's been since he's gotten back.
It's been terrible. He has to be like, I can't believe I'm back here. You know, like I was in a place, I was beloved. They didn't like me here when I left. I didn't like it here. I was in an organization that loved me. They traded for Jalen Ramsey, and I ended up back where? Like, I'm sure there's got to be some level of him that's just like, no, please get me to Chubb. Tell him to take me too, please. That's gonna if they do lose today, like the trade rumor stuff, people are gonna start trying to pick the bones of the Dolphins. And honestly, the Dolphins should for sure like sell whoever you can to get as many assets. The thing that you just hope is that the GM's not using those assets.
Yeah,
afterwards.
well, here's the thing, Tobin. We talked a lot about that on Friday. Man, I'm struggling with the idea, the notion, the concept that the person who's going to make these decisions, who's going to sell off these players, is Chris Grier. I struggle with that.
Should struggle.
Because, you know, if he didn't know what their value was, or what their ceilings were, or how good they were going to end up being. If he didn't know that, clearly he didn't. We trust him to get the right value back for them?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. Bradley Chubb has been he's had a nice start to the season. What does he have? Like, he's a sack like every week?
Yeah, no. He's without a doubt been the most consistent player on the defense. 100%.
Well, Zach Sealer's been consistent, just not consistently good.
Yeah, good point. Great point, Dan. The most consistent guy producing. Everybody else has been consistent, more consistent, just on the other end, consistently awful.
Very disappointed in my guy Zach Sealer. Been a tough year. That is Echolocation. Appreciate that little run. By the way, did you see that OBJ, Odell Beckham, did a sit down with the pivot, your boy Channing Crowder and Ryan Clark and Fred Taylor? Did you see any of that waxing poetic on his time with the Dolphins?
Yeah, I did. I was a little pissed off at Crowder because we knew he sat down with OBJ, and I told Crowder, like, yo, give me did he say anything interesting? He's like, nah. And then all of a sudden this guy's revealing that he has a 6-week ban for performance enhancers. I'm like, hey, we could have scooped it. Come on. We could have scooped your pivot show.
Well, the last time that he did, he had to deal with old Jordan Hudson.
Oh yeah, Jordan Hudson, Parakeet Cortez blocked me. That for some reason, like that, I was a casualty from all that as well. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know. Apparently, I'm to blame for all that. But yeah, maybe it's better we just stay away from all the nonsense.
Well, for those who didn't see, he told he was on the pivot and was basically like, I was sold a bill of goods. Which, by the way, also by the way, he's suspended for 6 games for PEDs. Just so we're clear, elevated testosterone, which I'm sure is on the up and up. But he unknowingly took it, so we'll take his word for it because everybody unknowingly takes it. It's like, it seems here you got the testosterone of a thoroughbred stallion, OBJ. He goes, I don't know. It must have been I don't know, unknowingly. I don't know how I got there, but he was like, I was sold. It's like, wait, dude, you missed like Olive camp, right? Like, never got to throw past to you, and like, what like? He still thinks of himself as like the guy who's proposing to the field goal, doesn't he? Like, he still sees himself as that. Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, I think he still sees himself as like sought after, somebody who like GMs are looking to, like, man, we're an OBJ away. That's what we are. We're an OBJ away.
Right. Yeah. You're not. Nobody is. That's kind of, to me, like, the OBJ thing to me though is an interesting pivot. Like, that to me is, it's not a move that's like of any significance to the Miami Dolphins, right? But to me, that like signified where Mike McDaniel got a little full of himself as like, I'm speaker of the stars. Like, the stars like me. I'm gonna bring this in. This is gonna be a huge thing. He shows up with the white suit. He's like, this is the next weapon we're already adding to Waddle. And it was just like, not too much. Like, this is where it ended up being too much. And that's what it's going to signify, more so than anything in football, because he didn't do anything. He was not a good player for the Dolphins.
He was not. I can't believe we're at the point where 2 games into the Darren Waller tenure, he's been 30 times the player OBJ was as a Miami Dolphin in 2 games. That's all it took. 2 games. 2 games.
If it wasn't OBJ, maybe I'd have more faith that Waller was going to work out. I think I partly blame Odell. This is why I was like, this Darren Waller thing's not going to work out. OBJ didn't work out. He's been way better. Way better. So good for him. We'll take a break. More to come here on Game Day Uncensored. We got, of course, everybody's favorite 2020 QB matchup coming out here. Tua v. Herbert. Getting some of that coming up next.
I'm Jonah Gadjevich of the Florida Panthers. Congratulations.
HD1 Miramar, Miami.
Chevrolet. When it comes to scoring a rugged new truck, Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet is the MVP of selection. Visit EdmoreSawgrassChevrolet.com and start shopping today. Remember, you're always backed by Morse. And by JM Lexus. JM Lexus has the best team in the business. A 4.8 Google rating with over 22,000 reviews and counting. JM Lexus, West Sample Road, Margate.
And welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here on FM 104.3 WQAM. As we take you guys up until this 1 o'clock kick from Hard Rock Stadium. Banners are flying. It's all happening right now. You know, now they're sponsored. People are taking advantage of the marketing. Genius, honestly.
That picture is going to be shared a lot in Miami, so it's not the worst idea in the world.
Not the worst idea in the world. A couple of things before we get into this QB matchup that has kind of defined the era. Everybody loves a good Herbert Tua debate, but one piece of breaking news that's happening right now is Mark Sanchez is released from the hospital. He is being processed in Indianapolis jail, mugshot taken, and now it looks like he's on his way home. Finally, he is making his way home, but there was press waiting for him, and he did give a statement answering some questions. He says, right now I'm focused on my recovery. I want to thank the first responders, the hospital, Marion County Sheriff, and the Indianapolis Police Department, Metro PD, but I'm focused on my recovery, and I just want to see my wife, my son, and my 2 baby girls. It'll be a day to answer all these questions, and unfortunately today is not that day. And he was asked if he wants to say anything to Mr. Toll, the guy that he was in the altercation with. He said, quote, I guess the real thing here is I just want to thank Dr. Mosler, the surgeon. She saved my life, so I'm grateful for that. And then Mark Sanchez went off into a car, and then he went off to the airport. People were still following him there, but he didn't really say anything to reporters at the airport. So that is it's obviously been a very hellacious week for Mark Sanchez and the man who was allegedly attacked by Mark Sanchez in this whole altercation. But that is a crazy story, and it feels like a guy whose entire career and life is about to be blown up by this whole thing that went down.
Yeah, I don't know. You know how people say in the NFL, especially the NFL world, like you get chances. You get a lot of chances to make up for your wrongdoing. Sometimes those wrongdoings are the really, really bad ones, right, Tobin? This one, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, who hires this guy again?
Oh man, I don't think anybody, because it's like I didn't,
right?
Not like I don't even think he was in the ilk of like a Tony Romo or Greg Olson as far as the broadcast world is concerned, right? Like he's a pretty pedestrian quarterback that had some success with the Jets. But like I didn't think of Mark Sanchez as like I got to hear what Mark Sanchez says about this game right here. I feel like he's a pretty replaceable. And then obviously, listen, he's gonna have bigger issues. Solana. I think this is up to a felony charge. Like he's gonna be battling some serious stuff here.
No, for sure. And did you see the video from TMZ? Did you see the clips that came out? At least I didn't see like the actual confrontation.
They didn't. That was the only thing. Strangely, that's
right.
the only thing we don't have.
But him just kind of roaming around like a random alley looked hammered. I mean, it doesn't bode well for him. Let's just say the videotape doesn't bode well for him.
It certainly does not. The other piece of local news is some good news. Jonah Gadjevich has signed an extension with the Florida Panthers. Nice. So shout out to Gadjo, Florida Panthers badass. And he gets a 2-year deal with the Cats. Cats are rolling right now, by the way.
I didn't watch the game yesterday, but I saw they kick some ass. Cats are fun.
Smoked them. Brad Marchand just has started this season just on a tear right now. Nice. Evan Rodriguez on a tear. Lundy on a tear. There was a great piece. He was getting interviewed by Brad Marchand was getting interviewed by Sportsnet, and in the midst of intermission, and as like the interview's going on, Barkov just like walks in, and he just like he looks like a meme. He's like, "Oh no, I got caught on camera," and starts shimmying backwards. So that was pretty hilarious. But no, the Cats are. They're hell on ice right now. They're killing.
Thank
everybody.
God, man. Thank God for the Cats. Thank God.
Now we get back to football. The Miami Dolphins taking on the Chargers today. This is inevitable. This is the time where we've reached. We have to do it's by law. We have to do a Tua versus Herbert segment. Them's the rules. It's just defined. I don't make them. I just follow them. And this is what we got. These two are matched up one again. What is the matchup all time? 2-1. Tua has won 2-1. I remember the Tua floors. Justin Herbert had a really tough game against the Dolphins defense. Then we had Sunday Night Football, which was a really tough loss for the Dolphins to take on the chin.
Yeah.
And then we had opening week of 2023 where Tua finds Cheetah for the fade for the win. So those are your matchups. And so this is a chance for Herbert to even up the series.
Maybe 2023, week 1, maybe Tua's best game ever.
Yeah, he was really good.
There's 3 games that come to mind when I think of like Tua's best games ever. That game, the week 2, 2022 comeback.
That's
in
one of the
Baltimore.
Games ever. Love that game.
And then remember, was it his rookie season where they're playing Arizona?
Yep.
And we saw flashes where you're like, oh, okay. Yep. Like he can do this. Okay. Like those to me are the best. Maybe I'm missing one, but those to me are like the best Tua games that I can think of.
Look, these two are always going to be tied. Your picks apart. They honestly couldn't be, more opposite as far as style is concerned. One guy is the statuesque, perfect build of a quarterback. Everybody believes in him. All the metrics gurus, they love him. They think that Justin Herbert has been wronged his entire career. How dare anybody be around Justin Herbert? That is not of great football royalty. They are also the only two QBs in this class that have been invested that don't have playoff wins. They are, there is that too. But yeah, it's tough not to think about it every single time. I know Omar, we'll talk a little bit with him because he's got a column out. I haven't read it yet, but I see that would the Dolphins' fortune be different if they had Herbert and Jim Harbaugh as their coach and quarterback? Which, yeah, they both could have gone those paths in different worlds, Solana, but they haven't. They are here with McDaniel and Tua. This is their build. Is this debate forever over? Like, do you feel like there's anything that can change this outside of Tua having some secondary, career resurgence?
I don't know, because do you think if Tua went elsewhere, if this build truly does come to an end, if this era does come to an end, and it's not, right? They're gonna suit up today and for the rest of the season. But if it does, Do you think Tua can find success elsewhere, Tobin? Do you think another coach, another scheme, a team with a solidified run game? I'll present to you Ryan Tannehill.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Tannehill leaves the Dolphins in shame, ultimately. Miami decides, hey, you weren't good enough. You didn't lead us where we expected you to lead us to, and we want to move on. This is done. We're getting off the hamster wheel. And he goes to Tennessee, and they pair him with a good offensive line, a generational running back, and that team, at the very least, competed for an AFC title. And I wonder, can Tua have the same type of resurgence elsewhere where he doesn't need to be the leader of the organization? I don't know. I don't know.
It's kind of become the chic thing around the NFL right now. Like you see Baker Mayfield, who showed great flashes in Cleveland. Like Cleveland just kicked him to the curb.
Won a playoff game in Cleveland. It was their first playoff win in 20 years or whatever it was.
Yeah, and he ends up, look, he has to go to a bunch of places. He has to go to Carolina. He has to go with McVay, all that stuff. But him, Sam Darnold find success in Minnesota, Geno Smith even. Daniel Jones is kind of the latest one right now. It's a good question. If Tua is in a place where he's the plug-in quarterback, could he have? Yeah, I think so, because we've seen Tua's teams have success. So I don't think that's a crazy thing to look at him and be in a place where they do. But I think, look, his biggest flaw is one of those things that kind of creeped up again this week on the injury report. We haven't even talked about it really, is that Tua was back on the injury report with a hip injury, with a thumb injury. And it may not be a big deal, but you're already thinking to yourself, oh no, like he's got an injury on the throwing. He's dealing with something on his throwing hand, and he's dealing with something on his hip, which has been outside of his head, probably his most, his biggest injury that he's dealt with. He's had hip injuries.
It's a conversation that we have a lot down here, but the reason Justin Herbert, Tobin, the reason why the conversation is dead in terms of Herbert versus Tua is just the injury aspect to me. Like, I think Justin Herbert skates by being mediocre a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, you look at, we talked about at the very beginning of the show, we look at the numbers from these guys. That first game against Kansas City in Sao Paulo, he made a throw that very few people can make. He's got that ability. Dude's got a cannon. He can sling it. There's no doubt about it. And physically, he looks the part. It's kind of like Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart looks the part, man. Whether or not he's going to be great, I don't know. We'll win on Thursday. But the dude looks the part. Herbert looks the part. Bro, this guy, I mean, his rating is 91. He's thrown for 1,200 yards, fine. But the last 2 weeks, they lost to the New York Giants. Think about that. They lost to Jackson Dart. He threw for 203 yards. And then last week, he threw for 166 yards against Washington. They lost 27-10. Like, he's not exactly turning into prime Peyton Manning or prime Tom Brady or prime Patrick Mahomes when his team needs him to elevate them. Like, he's not. He skates by. But because of his body, his build, and because Tua's constantly under like the scope of injury and under the scope of concussions, the conversation's been decided, Tobin. And it plays into the fact that Tua, throughout his career, it's not just the concussions, struggles to stay on the field, struggles to defeat the injury bug.
This was Mike McDaniel earlier in the week. This is what he had to say on Tua dealing with the scrutiny.
How has Tua handled expectations versus bottom line results? And I ask from a standpoint of, we know Tua's had injuries, been offensive line injuries. Now Tyreek is out. But you look in the AFC and you see Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, and that's who Tua is compared to. So how has he handled expectations versus bottom line results?
Well, I think that it's one of the reasons I focus on how he grows as a quarterback in the micro instances that I think are so difficult as a franchise quarterback in the National Football League. If you're uncomfortable with the stakes of the game, it's not a game for you. You're not going to change the stakes like it, and he knows that, and I think that's why I put such a priority on focusing on what he's working on and being able to get better at things while that is also always true, bottom line, black and white, you're held accountable for the results while you're trying to get better. That's difficult.
There you go, Mike McDaniel on it. Look, yeah, he has to deal with that. Is part of the thing. And look, Tua has dealt with way more scrutiny in his career than Justin Herbert has. There's no doubt about that. Everything is microscoped. And look, I don't even know what Justin Herbert sounds like, to be honest with you. Like, he just basically shows up as quarterback robot. Tua, it feels like he finds himself in the midst of headlines every week because he said something, and not even like nefariously. He just, that's how he is. He's super honest. I think I saw one clip from Justin Herbert this week on Finn's Extra Twitter, and it was just like him lying about how great the Dolphins pass rush is. He's just like, oh man, these guys, what a pass rush.
But I feel like people still think that. People still look at the names, and the scouting report is like, yeah, they've got a good pass rush, even though the numbers suggest otherwise. And also, Tobin, like, they have to prepare for something. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to credit the secondary because nobody knows any of the guys in the secondary. So what are you going to do? Just be like, yeah, I mean, they suck. You can't do that. You can't come up to the podium and be like, yeah, they don't really have anybody we're afraid of. So you just point to the guys that you know their names.
Bunch of bums out there. Can't stop anybody. You see that rookie they got out there?
Are you are you done with the debate then? Tua, Herbert, you're done?
I'm not done with it. I think what makes it done is that, like, look, they're just in a different spot right now. Like, they're in the Jim Harbaugh era. I think that Jim Harbaugh is going to have a lot more leeway than anybody because he's a coach who's been to a Super Bowl. He's a coach that's won a national championship. So, and he loves his quarterback. Like, he's made that very clear. So unless they play in a pretty difficult division. They got of course the dynastic Chiefs, and they got the Broncos, who are pretty decent. So I don't know what these expectations of them are, even with the same as the Dolphins. Like, and I think that their fan base is a little bit like, there's not a lot of pressure being the Chargers coach. Like, even the Dolphins and Miami not being like the most miserable fan base, like a Philly and New York. Like, this is the heritage team of this town, and people are fed up. I don't think that LA has that with the Chargers. Like, they're just like, hey, we got an extra team here. We don't even really like our other team, the Rams, that's had success, but we got this other team. So I think it's just done because I don't think that Herbert may be better. Okay. Like, he definitely broke all these records his rookie year, but I think if we were to stack up everybody in that class, Boudreaux and Herbert and Love and Hurts and Tua, like, yeah, Tua's probably last, but Herbert's probably second to last.
Yeah, he probably is. But I still think the perception nationally is that there's a massive gap between Herbert and Tua, and I just don't buy that. I understand the injury aspect, but to anybody who looks at these two, just like side-by-side comparison, fine. One looks like a prototypical quarterback, and one guy can put the ball, tuck the ball, run, and put his head down and take a hit. There's no doubt about it. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And Tobin, the reality is, in the NFL nowadays, that's a valuable as hell asset to have. It just is. And the Dolphins don't have it. They lack that. But, man, Justin Herbert skates by for being mid. He truthfully does. This guy's not an elite quarterback. He's not.
We'll take a break here on Game Day Uncensored. We'll get more into this Chargers matchup and how the hell Anthony Weaver is going to try and fix what is a defense that made him sick to his stomach last week. Back after this.
I'm AJ Greer of the Florida Panthers. Congratulations to WQ.
cool ways to listen to us on FM 1043 or on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps. Same great shows, same great games. Plus, you can use the rewind feature and listen to anything you missed. Go for it.
Time now for more Game Day Uncensored, the pregame show for real Miami football fans on FM 1043 WQAM.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here on FM 1043 WQAM. Omar Kelly going to join us at the top of next hour. Let's get to some keys to the game here, brought to you by Edmore Sawgrass Auto Mall. Shop exceptional Cadillac offers now at the 3-time Cadillac Dealer of the Year. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. Visit EdmoreSawgrassCadillac.com. You're always backed by Morse. The Dolphins getting set for this game against the Chargers. 3-2 on the season. Jim Harbaugh, their head coach, they started the season 3-0, beating KC, Las Vegas, and Denver, all of their divisional opponents, but they have lost their last two when they got into play against the NFC East. They lost to the Giants, which was the debut of Jackson Dart, was it not? I believe that was Jackson Dart. Yeah, and then they lost last week with the Commanders. So now 3-2 on the season. Mentioned earlier, Solana, but the big thing here that we were watching all week was Joe Alt, their left tackle. He is out. There were some question marks. He suffered a high ankle sprain a couple of weeks ago and is getting there, but not quite ready to go. They lost to Slater to start the season. So this is a team that is also banged up on the offensive line. No sympathy from the Dolphins. That's certainly something that they're dealing with. And they also have been banged up in the backfield. Amari Hampton, their first-round pick, he's on injured reserve. Najee Harris is hurt. So, they got to deal with that as well. They do have a good set of wide receivers, though.
Just to give everybody an idea of where they're at right now, I was reading Chargers Wire, and I wrote this down in my notes for this week. They write something where they go through the injuries are piling up, and they talk about all the ones that you just mentioned. 4 that weren't able to practice this week: Quentin Johnston, Denzel Perryman, Darius Davis, Bud Dupree, our old friend Deshaun Hand, all these guys. And then they write, add in Amari Hampton going to IR. LA's game day roster on Sunday may look almost unrecognizable compared to the preseason depth chart. So they're going through it, man. The injury bug has hit them, and it's hit them hard.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where for the Dolphins, like, they're there too. I mean, like, the Dolphins are dealing no Tyreek Hill, no right side of the line. We know that Aaron Brewer was dealing with a pec injury all week, so that's something to keep an eye on. Storm Duck, we'll get actives here soon, but it does feel like Storm Duck is getting closer this week. The big one that's going to be out is Terrell Dodson. He's in concussion protocol, so the Dolphins are going to be in a situation we may be getting more Willie Gay this week alongside KJ Britt.
Right.
So those will be things that we got to keep an eye on. Let's see.
And that is a big deal too. It's kind of like I think it was Perkins or somebody wrote like the Dolphins are going to be without the quarterback of their defense, right? Like the point guard of their defense. So that's. Look, Tyrell Dodson, I don't think is the difference between winning or losing football games. But when you talk about the struggles Miami's already had all season long, especially over the past couple of weeks, to stopping the run and being able to make game-changing plays on the defensive side of the football, now your middle linebacker is out, and you're relying on backups to fill that void. That's a very tough situation to try to overcome.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I know that you guys on the afternoon show with Hockman Crowder, you guys have, of course, an affinity for Oronde Gadsden,
yes, sir.
The legendary Miami Dolphins receiver. OG2, not Ollie Gordon II. Oronde Gadsden II is a tight end for the Los Angeles Chargers. Are you guys excited to see what he can do in this? He had a good first week. It's been a little quiet the last couple, but obviously it was a hell of a player for Syracuse.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited. Drafted 5th overall by the Chargers, and their depth chart, at tight end was pretty deep coming into the season. He was inactive the first 3 weeks of the season. Didn't play in Sao Paulo. Didn't play in any of the games at early on. but he finally made his debut against Denver, the last win that they had, 23-20, 7 targets, 5 receptions. He had a 17-yard reception mixed in there for 46 overall. It's been pretty quiet since then. Just 1 target, a catch for 14 yards last week. But, bro, it's a Dolphins legend in my eyes, and in OG in my time. His son suiting up today at Hard Rock Stadium. Really cool. Excited for Rondé, who's going to be out there. He joined us. He talked about it. Excited for the entire Gadsden family because OG is going to play today. There's no doubt. OG the second is going to play.
Let's get to Anthony Weaver. Anthony Weaver, this was kind of the quote of the week from him when he discussed his defense and how bad it was against the Carolina Panthers. They need a big-time bounce back, and he said that the film made him want to throw up. Here's what he had to say.
One of our points of emphasis going into the game was to take the extra step, meaning make sure you got bone on bone, pad on pad, and got these guys to the ground. In that game, I think the biggest thing that happened to us is we were so ball conscious and trying to take it away and just never stop the actual ball carrier. And this guy was running, he was like a runaway freight train, just running downhill. So that was disappointing. Again, we have an incredibly prideful group. So there are times in that game when you're watching the tape and you want to throw up, particularly because it's some of the guys that were making some of the errors. It was unlike them. So the beauty is we have an opportunity to correct it. We had no time to hang our heads and to walk around like we're at a wake. Right. And I thought the guys yesterday at practice did just that. They attacked their daily routine and what they were trying to do and just went out there and attacked the field and tried to get better. So hopefully we see the results of that this week.
Wonderful. Seems like he's got it all on track right now. The Dolphin status was they didn't practice like they were at a funeral.
Yeah, that's great. That's reassuring. Very reassuring.
Yeah, makes you feel great.
Going into today. Do you think you look at how the Chargers are positioned with the injuries, and they're obviously struggling in the running back room. I don't know anything about Hassan Haskins. I don't know anything about Kamani Vidal. Do you think this is a game where the Dolphins defense, at the very least, Tobin, can have, I don't want to say an inspiring week, but they can have one of those performances where they pick up the pieces and they get somewhat back on track? Is that possible still?
I mean, I just got to see them. I'd love to see them do it from the jump of a game where things aren't just handed to them. Like, I think that the tone has been set so much. Even the Jets game, like if it didn't get to that fumble, that great play at by Jack Jones, like they were getting mowed down. You just had a Panthers team that got off. So I would love to see the Dolphins just get out and, really fly around and try and make Herbert uncomfortable. But I still feel like Haskins, being a Michigan guy, you feel like he's going to have the trust of Harbaugh behind him and that they'll make some things happen. And yeah, I would hope like Anthony Weaver's got these guys playing a little bit more inspired, but I don't know. I'm curious to see how much he's going to lean still into Kenneth Grant because of his struggles. And then look, we mentioned OG. They still got Keenan Allen. They got Ladd McConkey. Like, these are very decent targets that they're still going to have to shut down. And man, we saw a really bad performance by the cornerbacks last week. That was not great from them. So those are things that do worry me. But look, if they can't stop this situation, I don't know. I mean, I don't think they've had a lot of inspired ones anyway. So I don't even want to say like, if they can't stop this, who can they stop? Because they haven't stopped anybody. I don't know. I really have to see them bring that impact salon. It just hasn't been there so far this year for them. And I think arguably it's been the biggest issue of the team.
I think if you're watching this game, you're probably like me in wondering, almost fascinated with the idea of, okay, how are the Chargers going to try to approach this game? What's their offensive scheme today? What's what they're saying? This is our path to victory, because the Panthers showed you, the Jets showed you, every team has showed you, hey, you can run the ball on the Dolphins, right?
Yep.
There's no doubt about it. But when you consider the fact that, hey, they're banged up front as well. They're without their 2 starting tackles. They don't have stability on the offensive line. They've struggled to run the football, and Omarion Hampton goes to IR. They're relying on guys to run the football that, again, Hassan Haskins, Kamani Vidal, was just signed to the practice squad, elevated. Haskins was on the practice squad, elevated to the 53 when Hampton goes to IR. Last week, Herbert only threw the ball against the Washington Commanders 29 times. The 2 weeks prior to that, Tobin, he threw 41 against the Giants. That was a loss. And he threw 47 against Denver. What's it going to look like today? Is he throwing the ball? Are they just going to put the ball in the hands of their quarterback and tell him, go make plays?
Yeah.
Or do they rely on, running backs that aren't proven? Because, hey, the Dolphins haven't proven they can stop the run, so we're just going to put the ball in their hands.
Yeah, I think you're going to see. Herbert having that ability to move. We've seen that with every quarterback so far. Whether it's Bryce Young's kind of the rare one that doesn't do much. We even saw it with him a little bit. So yeah, I think that's definitely got to be something that they're going to be tested with, and especially with losing one of your starting linebackers as well. They're going to have to keep an eye on what Herbert's going to be able to do in this game.
And they've proven that they can win with Herbert not throwing the ball a lot, and a low scoring game. They beat the Las Vegas Raiders earlier. This stood out to me. Week 2, they beat the Raiders 20-9. Wasn't impressive from Herbert throwing the football 242 times, only 27 attempts. However, 9 carries for 31 yards. And then last week, 4 carries for 60 yards. He broke off a 41-yarder, which is why. But they have that ability. They can move him out of the pocket a little bit. Things break down. We talked about, not that he has speed per se, but he's not shy of actually running for first downs, moving the chains that way. I would imagine it's going to look a little bit like that. Sloppy at times for the Chargers, but they'll find ways to move the ball on the ground, whether it's going to be, these running backs that they elevated, or it's just old Justin Herbert running right down your throat.
A couple of things. The Jets have taken an 11-10 lead on the Broncos. They've gotten a field goal and a safety. There was a holding in the end zone.
Yeah.
So the Jets are now on top, and we do have our actives inactive. So we will take a break. We will give you those. Omar Kelly going to join us at the top of next hour. More Game Day Uncensored rolls on after this.
I'm Mario Cristobal.
favorite South Florida teams. We've got them. Catch us on FM 104.3 or listen to WQAM on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps. Don't miss a thing.
Now, let's get back to Game Day Uncensored. The pregame show for real Miami football fans on FM 104.3 WQAM.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here on FM 104.3 WQAM. It's that time of the show where we got to get to our inactives and actives, which is brought to you by JM Lexus. JM Lexus has the best team in the business, a 4.8 Google rating with over 22,000 reviews and counting. JM Lexus, West Sample Road and Margate. Omar Kelly going to join us at the top of next hour as we march along to this 1 o'clock kickoff from Hard Rock Stadium. Here are your inactives, Solana. This is what we got for today. The first one, Jalen Wright. Inactive for the second straight week is a healthy scratch. So I saw that he gave some quotes this week to Barry Jackson and Joe Shad that he is surprised and disappointed that he has not been active for the Miami Dolphins. Jalen Wright's, man, that's a guy whose stock felt like it is just fallen off a cliff since the preseason.
Crazy, right? Like coming into the season, okay, Devon Achane, RB1, Jalen Wright, RB2. And then Ollie Gordon was like that. The sweetener, right, Tobin? Like the sprinkles on top of what you just felt like was a great a double scoop in your running back unit. And man, has he fallen off? Not that I want to revisit this conversation, but it kind of adds to, another example of Chris Greer just not necessarily hitting on a guy that he drafts. But look, Ollie's look great. Has he not? I mean, in the brief times that we've seen him out on the field, he's looked great. I know last week the team couldn't run the football, but dude runs hard, and he deserves that second or to be RB number 2. I don't think there's a doubt about it.
I think the thing that's interesting is, we talk about the lack of commitment there is to the run game just in general. I mean, I don't know if the Dolphins would mind just having more options to try and keep things going. And especially, I think that Achane's become such an interesting weapon. I mean, we saw that great catch that he had in the receiving game and the loss of Tyreek Hill. Like, is there something to be said for, just having the extra running back there? You could have both on the field. I mean, they've done some of that with Ollie, but look, I mean, it's not like Jalen Wright has had his moments to really prove anything yet. So, but you understand a young player being disappointed with where they probably thought the season was going to go. Cedric Wilson remains inactive. The Dolphins signed him. He did start practicing a little bit this week. No Elijah Campbell. We mentioned Terrell Dodson. He is inactive. Storm Duck is inactive. So the talks about the idea that he may be starting to work his way back from the ankle injury. He was moving out there a little bit, but he is inactive. And then Zeke Biggers is also inactive for the Miami Dolphins. So he will not be added to the defensive line. Some people thinking maybe Zeke would be put out there, maybe get some snaps. Can he stop anything a little bit with his Dolphins? They are not going with that. So that is your inactives for the Miami Dolphins going into this one.
I noticed that Isaiah Johnson is going to make his debut for the Dolphins. I just saw Barry Jackson wrote he's a Dolphins 5th cornerback today. He played at Syracuse. He's been on the practice squad. So he'll make his debut, I imagine, for special teams purposes. But
he had a pretty good preseason last year. He was in that battle between him and Storm Duck. It was basically it was very hotly contested by the end of last year. So we'll see. I mean, obviously a guy that they've had their eye on that they feel can do some things. The Dolphins don't really have a slot corner, so they got to figure some things out there as well with the losses they're dealing with. So I don't know, Solana. That defense has definitely got some adversity they got to go through. There's no doubt about that.
Saying that the Chargers depth chart looks unrecognizable. I mean, the Dolphins kind of does as well, especially in the secondaries, which is saying something, right? Because coming into the season, you weren't feeling great about the secondary, but Storm Duck continues to be out. It's just like all the guys you thought you were going to be able to rely on, or at the very least you were hopeful you could rely on, just aren't out there.
Well, the thing you also got to be nervous about too is we know that Aaron Brewer's playing this game. He was questionable. He is active, not on the list there, so he will give it a go. But you got to be a little bit nervous in the all right, it's a pec. That could be something that maybe flares up during the game. And then where do they go? Are they going Brunskill as their center? Is that the move? We've seen him already, and so we're gonna be there's a very big possibility that we have a line that's, Patrick Paul, Savatinaya, Brunskill, Cole Strange, and Larry Borum.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't remember, Brunskill was the guy who got lit up in Buffalo on the game-ending interception where Tua just had to kind of fling the ball out to the flat. It was Brunskill who, in less than half a second, like 0.3 of a second, was put in a blender. and
it was tough.
Let the D lineman get right by him. Yeah, that doesn't inspire any sort of confidence, Tobin. It just doesn't. Zero.
And hopefully Brewer can be out there, and this isn't an issue. I'm just saying, it's very close to being an issue. So just keep an eye on it. For right now, it's already enough the Dolphins are going through this year, mostly because Eichenberg and Meyer and Austin Jackson, they were all eligible. And Mike McDaniel was basically he didn't make it seem like any of those guys are close to coming back for reinforcements.
The Liam Eichenberg thing is fascinating because they pay him to come back.
Yep.
And it sounds like he's dealing not just with an injury that can keep him out this season, but it sounds like he's dealing with a career-threatening injury. So it's fascinating to me that you would bring him back to be, your quote-unquote depth, which is funny in itself. But he's going through something that, is going to keep him out long-term, Tobin, potentially.
Yeah, it's all too crazy with how this has been par for the course when it comes to Chris Greer. He just ignores any kind of injury concerns when it comes to anything. Just even Cedric Wilson, they're oh, he's got to get a knee cleanup. Cool, bring him in.
Perfect. Yeah.
What do we need him for? We don't have a wide receiver, but he knows the system. Let's go get that guy. Just a little cleanup. What's gonna be 3-4 weeks? No big, dude. You take your time, Cedric. It's not like our season's on the line or anything. When you're 1-8, when we're 1-8, you'll be ready to rock.
Cedric, actually, if you want, do another cleanup. How's the other knee? You clean up the other knee. Yeah. Do another procedure. Give you a couple more weeks. No problem. All good.
It's crazy to me. They're just the more of an injury factor there is, the more attractive it is to this general manager. He's just yeah, that's good. Because imagine if once he gets healthy, what that could be like. It's he loves to live in the what ifs. It really is a marvel with him.
Yeah.
When he sits there with his blazer and his ball cap, he's just what's he do? Does he just love looking at MRIs? He goes, when he's sitting at a diner, he opens up, he's looking at the menu and he goes, he's got pancakes on one side and MRIs on the other. He's just I gotta look at this. He goes, he's just, hey, what do you think of that guy? Looks like he's got a little bit of an injury risk. Let's bring him on board.
Nobody's more of a fan of an injury report than Chris Greer. Nobody.
Yeah.
The guy loves an injury report. His draft preparation is just, what's their injury history? You got any more of the injury history?
What else is that? What else has he got? Got any contusions? What anything that could really hurt his availability? Because that's what I like.
I'll tell you what, though, man. Say what you want about Chris Greer, everybody. Say what you want. That dude can rock the hat, sport coat like nobody else. It's a look. It's a vibe. Not many people can rock it, man. He does. He really does.
He does. That's his thing. That is his thing. So good for him. All right, we'll take a break. Omar Kelly, Miami Dolphins columnist from the Miami Herald, joins us every week on Gameday Uncensored. We will talk to Omar coming up next.
I'm Seth Jones of the Panthers. Congratulations to
On WQAM FM and HD1 Miramar, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and WQAM AM Miami, an Odyssey sports station.
Powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys.
Call 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
It's another Game Day Uncensored.
Back home for the Dolphins today. They face the Chargers at Hard Rock Stadium. Not the easiest of games. A lot of strong words about the Fins this week. Angry fans, frustrated players and coaches and owners. Jalen Phillips, after last week's game, said all is not lost.
It's not like, we're just a dumpster fire and that we can't do anything right. I think that we do a lot of good things. We just have to marry those good things together and keep playing complementary football and take advantage of momentum swings and, not fold when we're up 17-0.
And there are questions about the run defense. Mike McDaniel addressed that.
I think the issue, I can't point anywhere, but directly at preparation and how we execute stuff, which ultimately, I look at on me, I thought, we had a good plan, thought we got some stuff fixed. We've known the issues we've had, and we thought that we're prepared for this, and clearly we weren't.
Time to figure out what's going to happen today. One never knows. This is Game Day Uncensored, the pregame show for real Miami football fans, with Tobin and Solana, Omar Kelly, and Chris Perkins on FM 104.3 WQAM, Miami's sports leader.
Game Day Uncensored on FM 104.3 WQAM is brought to you by the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models now through September 2nd. Learn more at Lexus.com. Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet. When it comes to scoring a rugged new truck, Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet is the MVP of selection. Visit EdmoreSawgrassChevrolet.com and start shopping today. Remember, you're always backed by Morse. And by JM Lexus. JM Lexus has the best team in the business. A 4.8 Google rating with over 22,000 reviews and counting. JM Lexus, West Sample Road, Margate.
And welcome back in, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here on FM 104.3 WQAM. Brendan Tobin alongside Alejandro Solana. We got one more hour of pregame coverage here for you as we get you ready for Dolphins and Chargers from Hard Rock Stadium. Dan Day producing for us. You guys can catch Dan on the postgame edition here for an hour before we head on over to Heat preseason basketball, Heat and Magic. First end of a back-to-back for the Heat. They got the Hawks tomorrow night, and the Panthers also in the midst. They start a 5-game road trip tomorrow. But task at hand, let's get to the Miami Dolphins, and let's get to Omar Kelly, Miami Dolphins columnist from the Miami Herald. Omar, I got to ask you a question, man. All right. I love me some Zach Sealer, but I have to ask. I know he's not maybe in the best situation right now with rookies around him, but is he suffering from fat cat syndrome?
No, that's not Zach. That's absolutely not Zach. I think the issues that they're having run defense is the number one in terms of the issue. If the Dolphins solve, and I was just having this conversation with a former player, if the Dolphins solve their run game issues, they would be probably twice as good as his team. The problem is that you are relying too much on young, unproven rookies who don't know what they don't know and who are just learning how to play the game. And at this point, after 5 games, teams have identified that Kenneth Grant is a weak link, that Jonas Savaiinaea is a weak link, and they are going after them. They are game planning to attack them. And while you might patch one leak on the ship that surfaced last week, there might come 2 more holes on the boat this week because somebody's going to do something different to attack you. And to me, I'm very disappointed in the organization because they know that this is an issue. It's not going anywhere, and they haven't done anything about it. At the minimum, you could give Zeke Biggers an opportunity to show you whether he can or he can't do it. because at this point, what do you have to lose? When you had issues at cornerback and you had issues at wide receiver from a depth standpoint caused by injuries, you went out and you addressed the spot. You've got issues at defensive tackle, probably bigger than the issues at cornerback and wide receiver. And yes, I'm including losing what the hell is his name? Tyreek Hill. How the hell did I forget Tyreek Hill? Because you have no chance on defense if you can't stop the run. None, zero. And they haven't been able to stop the run in 5 weeks.
Well, they also can't run the ball either, right, Omar, on the other side?
No. That was one game where they couldn't run the ball. So the body of work the previous 4 games has shown you they could run the ball. We're probably saying they need to run the ball more. And unfortunately, that blew up in everybody's face who has this theory that they need to run the ball more.
But it wasn't just that they couldn't run the ball. Like in one game, Omar, I mean, we're talking about, in my opinion, kind of an eye-opening sequence there where offensive line, you talk about teams game planning to expose Sabainaya, and now you're hoping your starting center is going to be healthy enough to withstand the entire game dealing with that pec injury, and then the right side of the offensive line. I mean, nobody has any faith that they can hold their own there either. Is it just as simple as, hey, okay, that didn't work last week, but this week you can get back on track? Like, is that a fair assumption to make?
They better. Now, 2 factors that came to mind. Because if you can't run the ball, Tua has no chance, because Tua is a play action quarterback. Tua is a, deception, play action. Do you know if he's running or passing? The RPO, that's his game. And if you got no run and you're just all pass, then teams are going to play you for the pass, and they're going to jump your routes. And we all know what happens when people start jumping to his routes, especially without Tyreek Hill. We haven't seen him try to endure one of those games. Now, last week, I think he had a really good performance. Numbers-wise, Tua is back to being good. He's a 100 passer. He's a 100 rated quarterback. I think they're like 9 in the league right now. And if he produces another 100 rated season, and I really want fans to understand this, he would become the 3rd player in NFL history to do that for 4 straight seasons, joining Aaron Rodgers and Steve Young, which is great company to keep. Now, does that address the fact that Tua can't kill or can't finish the games? No, it doesn't. But what it does do is it lets you know that this quarterback is going to keep you in games. He's not going to go out there and generally lose you games unless he starts throwing turnovers in bunches. But he's going to keep you in games. The problem is you need something else. Like Tua threw 1 touchdown pass that in the 4th quarter that got the team to lead. And if the defense was actually good and respectable, maybe he would have sealed the victory. No, but you require him to throw 2 touchdown passes in the 4th quarter. And yeah, that's reasonable. That's what happens sometimes for the big boys, the Mahomes and the Josh Allens and the what's the little scrambling guy, Lamar Jackson. But it doesn't necessarily happen for everybody. And I think what people are obsessed with is the fact that Tua is not a big boy in this league. And, realistically, I don't know why we think he should be a big boy in this league, other than the fact that there are a lot of big boys in the AFC. Now, this is going to be an interesting matchup because obviously it's a quarterback that we chose that we didn't choose instead of choosing Tua. Hindsight, we probably shouldn't have done that because Herbert has got ridiculous talent and he's got a stellar arm and he's bigger and more mobile and more durable. But here's the thing. Tua hasn't accomplished anything less than Justin Herbert. And in fact, he's probably accomplished more.
Yeah. If you look at the head-to-head, like he is slightly ahead of him and all that stuff. The thing that's interesting, who do you think, like Steve Ross watches this game today? I haven't gotten to read your column yet, so I don't know if you answer this, but who do you think he looks at as the bigger what if on this Chargers team? Do you think it's Harbaugh or do you think it's Herbert?
I think it's Herbert because I think he realizes he was never going to get Harbaugh from probably his first conversation. People in the NFL knew that if Harbaugh left Michigan, he was only going to leave it for a California team. and he had already coached one. So, there was really just the Chargers left. I think we only have 2 California teams. Yeah, Vegas. Because I think he had conversations with Vegas and Minnesota the year that Mike McDaniel was coming. Mike McDaniel got the job. Their focus was on Sean Payton, and it wasn't on Harbaugh. And I remember Steve Ross being quoted saying, if Harbaugh leaves Michigan, it's not going to be me who makes it, who takes him from Michigan. And obviously that's a his allegiance is to both organizations, Michigan, University of Michigan, and to the Miami Dolphins. But I think he knows Harbaugh would have never come to Miami. This is not the environment for everybody. And some people in the NFL believe that it's a very difficult environment to be a coach in the city. And Nick Saban's one of those guys. But Herbert, that was a very thorough, debated conversation. And it wasn't just Herbert and Tua. It was Herbert, Tua, and Love. And everybody wanted something different. I don't think Herbert was the guy. Like, from what I understand, based on people who were in those conversations, Brian Flores wanted Love. He wanted offensive lineman and Love at 18. Now, obviously, there's some risk associated with that, whether Love is going to be there at 18 or not. But that was who he liked in the draft. He didn't not like Tua, because if he said to Chris Greer that I don't like Tua, Tua would have never been here. That's not who Chris Greer is. That's not how he operates. And the last thing, Chris Greer has told me more than one time, he's not going to force a player on a coach that the coach doesn't want. Now, I can't think that Brian Flores was being disingenuous, because hell, Brian Flores is got a nasty personality, and what he wants, he makes it very clear. And so if you didn't want to coach Tua, or you thought Tua was soft, which he basically beat up Tua in the combine, so why was he here? And but hindsight's 20/20. I think a lot of that is you make the bad decision and you make the wrong decision, and then you live with regret.
Yeah, and look, Omar, I realize that it's spotlighted today. I get that, and I understand why. And it makes sense. But to me, the Tua Herbert thing isn't like the biggest reason why Fins fans should be upset about whether it's that draft or just all the drafts that followed. It's the state of the organization in general, right? Like when you look at the roster top down, okay, yes, maybe Justin Herbert makes this team better if that ended up being the pick that they ended up going with, but I still don't think it makes this specific roster. I don't think it makes this specific situation all that much better, because I don't think Justin Herbert is a Hall of Fame quarterback that elevates everybody around him. I think it has to do more now with the state of the roster, which is a roster that's not good, which leads me to my question. You wrote in the Miami Herald this week that if the Dolphins lose this game today to the Chargers, it's time to kind of gut the roster, trade the best talent, the most talented players on the team, and go find some draft capital and start thinking about the future. And I wonder, my response to that on the show when we talked about it was, I don't trust Chris Greer to make decisions with this roster. I just don't. And I wonder how you feel about that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like Chris Greer's the right person if the Dolphins were to lose this game or next week, whenever it's time, right before the deadline? Do you trust Chris Greer to make these decisions?
Absolutely, and let me tell you why. I am not a Chris Greer fan. I'm on record. I've probably gone after him probably every week for the last 2 years in terms of pointing out or identifying the poor things that he does. This talent on this roster, this is a bad roster. It just is. And if you deny that it's a bad roster, I can give you 10 reasons why it's a bad roster, starting with you're leaning heavily on rookies, which has never been done in the Mike McDaniel era. But the one thing I could tell you about Chris Greer during his entire tenure with the Miami Dolphins, and he has made more trades than any other executive in the NFL during that same tenure, is I cannot identify a trade where Chris Greer took an L. I just can't. Mathematically, talent-wise, even the Fitzpatrick trade for Jonnu and Ramsey. You're unloading Ramsey, you're trading Jonnu, and then you go sign Darren Waller. nobody in their mind who has eyes can tell you that even though Jonnu just set records for this franchise, he's in the same league as a healthy Darren Waller, because he's not. I think these last two games have clearly identified that for us, correct? So, like, you took a win on that trade. Like, who in the world thought you'd get Minkah Fitzpatrick back? Now, I wrote earlier this week that Minkah's kind of a hostage here, and I do believe that.
Seems like he loves it.
Yeah. Well, wonderful experience for Minkah every time he comes back to Miami. Now he's playing the exact position that him and Flores had a beef about him playing. Like,
remember when he was giving the advice to Kenneth Grant? His answer when he really got off the podium should have been like, "Get out of here, run fast." Kenneth. That should be his advice. Go anywhere else but here.
Oh God, that was so funny. But back to Grier. The one thing I know he can do is make trades, and I know this is going to break the heart of every Dolphin fan who, hates Chris Grier's existence and thinks that he's the heart of what's wrong with the organization. But I have a hard time sitting here and telling you that Chris Grier is going anywhere. Now, he might not be in charge of the personnel, but I think he's still going to be in this organization. And until that Brian Flores lawsuit is done, finished, complete, and it is a class action lawsuit that is going to a jury trial that is eventually going to start depositions. And Chris Grier is like witness number one. So until that is resolved, I'm sorry. Until that's resolved or his contract is finished, I think he's going to be doing whatever's in the best interest of the Miami Dolphins organization.
I'm cool with that as long as like he can go run F1 or whatever the hell they can concoct for him. I'm fine with that as long as it's not drafting anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think this roster is so flawed. You have to. There's no way that you can argue that he needs to still be in charge of football operations. Maybe you hire somebody and put him ahead of him in charge of football operations. But that's the thing. I can't even name you a czar that I would want right now. I can. I'm a Bruce Arians fan. And that would never happen here. That would never happen here in terms of putting Bruce Arians in charge of the organization. But I believe if anybody can do it, I think Bruce Arians can. But that's not a fit for this owner. I don't think Bruce is a personality fit for this owner. But yeah, it's hard to find those czars that are out there that you could give them all power and they could select the coach and select the players and, select the GM. It's hard to find the Bill Parcellses.
Yeah. Well, I can give you
one.
Yeah, I can think of one, Omar. Anybody not named Chris Grier. Like that. I'm not even kidding. That's genuinely where I'm at because and Omar, I love you and I hear what you're saying. But when you say he's never made a trade, and he's never taken an L on a trade, like I disagree. I disagree. I think
find him a trade, Solana.
Josh Rosen. Unless you're excluding draft day, unless you're excluding draft day trades. But correct me if I'm wrong. Cost the Dolphins a second round pick, round pick, and a 5th round pick to go get Josh Rosen in 2019. And I understand why they made that trade. I'm not saying at the time it was the dumbest trade, but look, results based business, right? I mean, you gave up a second round pick and a 5th round pick for Josh Rosen. Like,
it was a bad trade. You're correct. But here's the thing, and the funny thing is, I know that Chris Grier didn't like Josh Rosen, and I'm not defending him because I couldn't care less. Because that day that trade was coming down, I knew about it the previous day, and I just killed Twitter trying to say, "Don't do this, don't." And you're right, he should not have the opportunity to select a 4th quarterback for this organization. But that Josh Rosen trade, that was the offensive coordinator. That was what they wanted to do, and I thought it was the dumbest thing ever. And you're right, that is an L because anybody who trades for Josh Rosen, a second, like you knew the Cardinals didn't want him. What are you giving him a second round pick for?
Yeah, it was really weird.
Why?
That whole thing was strange because it was like literally the Dolphins were the only team that was like a pairing. Like, how did they not get him for peanuts?
Yep, absolutely. A second-round pick for Josh Rose. You're right. That is Chris Grizel.
Boom, he's on there.
Because he's in charge. He's in charge.
Yeah.
He could have just said no. He won't, and that's the personality quirk that's kept him in power for so long. He's such a people pleaser, and I'm a people pleaser too, so I understand. I can relate. But you're right. That's a tremendous L on his resume.
Omar Kelly, go follow his work at the Miami Herald. Always appreciate when he joins us here on Game Day Uncensored. Enjoy the game, Omar.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.
We'll take a break. Get some Porpoise props coming up next.
I'm Sam Bennett of the Florida Panthers. Congratulations to WQAM on its move to the FM dial.
Plus, there's the cool rewind feature where you can listen to any part of any show you might have missed anytime.
Time now for more Game Day Uncensored, the pregame show for real Miami football fans on FM 104.3 WQAM.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here on FM 104.3 WQAM. Brendan Tobin here alongside Alejandro Solana. Dan Day producing for us here today. Catch Dan on the post-game edition. You get started at 4 exactly, Dan? Is that when the exact time gets going?
No, just whenever the game ends. But yeah, 4 at the latest.
4 at the latest. All right, so we got that. And then, of course, what time is pre-heat tonight, Solana? When do we get going for the heat coverage?
I feel bad. It's at 4:45. Dan, we should have coordinated. I would have let you
go.
No,
until 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. You got an hour today. You got an hour today. Yes, that's what the schedule says.
Oh, all right. So I'm only on at 30 minutes. Oh, perfect.
Heat take on the Magic tonight. They got the Hawks tomorrow, so I don't know what that means on who's not going to play when, but someone's not going to play. You know, we're going to get a lot of Vlad Gold in one of these games.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe let Bam take a nap. He's been cross country. He's been the best boyfriend ever. Maybe let him take a nap for a date.
I do love that. Like Heat fans have claimed this Aces title as their own. They're like,
Yes.
hey, we did it. Let's go.
We did it. We support. We love.
Yeah.
Until they give us the soul back, we get it.
Listen, I bet you Ron Rothstein's ready to go. Let him know. He'll be right back on the sideline for the soul.
He would be ready to go, dude. Right now, by the way, we have the Jets and the Broncos. The Broncos are, let's see.
Tobin, I'm watching this game.
13-11. I don't have the game on right now. I just have the score.
I'm watching this game. The Jets can't move the ball. They can't throw the ball. They can't. But they have stayed in this game. The Broncos just punted the ball back to the Jets. The return got them to right around midfield. So the Jets, with 2 minutes to go, at the 2-minute warning right now, have the ball. They're down 2. They just need to get like 15 yards to get into field goal range. That's it. They need to get 15 yards. And I'll tell you right now, I don't think they can. I'm not confident that they can move the ball 15 yards down the field. It has been an unbelievably embarrassing showing for offense in England today. Just unbelievably embarrassing.
When's England gotten a heater? Like, when's the last time England was just? I guess last week was okay. I mean, the Browns Vikings, but I feel like we always send them stinkers.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna do. You know, poor Spain has to watch the Dolphins.
At least they get the Commanders, right? At the very least, they get the Commanders.
Oh man! All right, it's that time of the show where we get in on some action. We discuss what bets we like today. We like to call this segment Porpoise Props.
It's time for
I don't know about you, but that looked like money.
Porpoise Props.
Hopefully you didn't jinx us.
Props.
All right. So on the Hard Rock Bet app right now, Devon Achane is the favorite to score a touchdown, anytime touchdown in this game. Hassan Haskins, if you want to know where the Dolphins' run defense is at right now, he is the second favorite to score an anytime touchdown in this game. He's plus 105. Lad McConkey is plus 135, and then Jalen Waddle plus 150 with Keenan Allen at plus 155. So those are your top anytime touchdown props. Darren Waller, who is, now one of the big time targets for the Dolphins in the red zone, he's plus 250 today. If you like Darren Waller, 2 touchdowns, that's plus 1750. If you think he can get 2 touchdowns for you today.
It's not a terrible little flyer to take. It's really not.
It is not a terrible flyer to take. Ollie Gordon is plus 350. Malik Washington's plus 325. Nick Westbrook-Akine, who I can't even remember any catches that he's had. He always feels like he's got nice blocks, though. He is plus 425. Julian Hill, who has been catching the football.
He has.
He's not in the end zone.
Yeah, he has.
He's down to plus 750. And then you get some real heavy numbers. Tua, plus 1,300. Alec Ingold, who I got to tell you, dude, we got to any Alec Ingold play that is not just a handoff, Solana, I would like them to just throw in the trash. I'm sick of it. I can't take the Alec Ingold wheel route anymore. It's not working out.
The wheel route, the dig routes, just like, what are we doing with Alec Ingold, man? We saw it week 1 against Indy. It's like, game kind of on the line here. Need a first down. Here's an 8-yard comeback to Alec Ingold right up the middle of the field.
Taj Washington has the longest odds on offense. He is plus 3,000. He only got 3 snaps last week, so keep that in mind if planning on betting on Taj. Tua's over-under is set at 223.5 passing yards. His over-under on passing TDs, he's plus 120 to throw 2 touchdowns today, if you wanted to throw that into a parlay anywhere. And for Tua to have a 300-yard passing game is plus 575 if you feel Tua is going to be slinging the football around. Because honestly, I don't know what to make of the run game. We're making the point to Omar. Omar still seems to have some faith in it. I don't know, Solana. Like, that line is very banged up. Who do you trust them running behind on this offensive line?
By the way, 1st and 10 at the 46-yard line. Justin Fields sacked for a loss of 5 yards. I told you it's going to be tough for him. What's funny is Omar said they better run the football, but it's like, how? Right? I mean, it's not like they didn't try against Carolina. They just could not run the football. H10, his over-under at 57.5. I mean, like to imagine, Tobin, that's going to go over, and you hope it goes over just for the sake of winning this game. But you mentioned Tua to throw for 300 yards. I don't see this being a shootout today. I don't think either team is in a position. The Chargers offense is completely decimated by injury, and the Dolphins haven't been able to run the football. It's not conducive to these two teams putting up big numbers today, right? Like, this has all the makings of a low-scoring, kind of grinded out win. The team that makes the least amount of mistakes will end up on top at the end.
Well, we all know that they're going to come out. The Chargers are going to come out trying to run the football, like, because you just got to test it. Like, I know that they have backups in there, but I don't know how you could watch what the Dolphins have done this season and Jim Harbaugh isn't, unless they. And mind you, the thing that's craziest about the Dolphins' performance last week, and this cannot be stressed enough, that happened to them after they had a 17-0 lead, which is not usually conducive to a team attacking you with the run. Like, that's the thing that's crazy about it. So it basically shows you that they can be run on at any point in any situation,
right? Even
with them being on their 3rd string running back, So I don't know, Solana. Yeah, I understand your theory in that, but I could see the Dolphins' defense being just lit up because that's what they've been lit up. It's just a question of can the Dolphins' offense keep up with it on the other side, and that's where you could get into Tua having to throw the football all over the place.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Receptions, Jalen Waddle's set at 5.5, is over under, and then Devon Achane is at 5.5 as well. I like the Devon Achane receiving.
I do too.
props.
I like that one a lot.
Just because Tua likes to throw the ball right around the line of scrimmage, and it's normally to Achane. Tobin, you know who I expected to have a big game last week? I think I chose him as my MVP or predicting the game ball last week, and it was crickets. Was Malik Washington? What happened there? What happened there? Without Tyreek Hill, I just figured, hey, this is a perfect opportunity for Malik Washington to be featured somehow in the offense, and it was crickets from him in the game.
I'm still believing in Malik Washington getting an offensive touchdown. I do have him in one little 2-leg parlay, but I've switched up. I have left Zach Sealer in the dust. I just can't do it right now.
Yeah.
And I've thrown on Chop Robinson to get his next sack today. I feel like Chop Robinson and a Malik Washington, that's plus 1750 if you guys want to parlay that together. But I'm just throwing some stuff. Dolphin Kane says, what's Julian Hill's line? I believe he's plus 750 today.
Yeah, I think he is. Or plus.
Yeah, plus 750.
Plus 750.
Plus 750, plus 800. The Dolphins in this game, by the way, are 3.5-point dogs at home. So,
you know what else is interesting? First
What's
quarter,
that?
if you really want to get sick with it, first quarter, Tua in the first quarter to throw for 45 and a half or more yards. Hot start last week. That always seems interesting. Like, it took him a little bit early in the season to really get going, but over the past couple games, like I'm thinking Buffalo, I'm even thinking New York, and then last week, first quarter, offense seems like it's been humming a little bit, right? It falls off towards the second half, but first quarter, offense seems like it has its bleep together.
You like the script. You like the script they come out with.
They come out, scripted drive. It works.
All right. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There's your Porpoise props. You got anything that you really like today, Solana, that you're going to go with for sure?
I'm not going to get tricky with it anymore because I've been trying to be cutesy. Devon Achane anytime touchdown has been hidden. So I'm riding with a Devon Achane anytime touchdown. And I like Devon Achane over 5.5 receptions. I basically just think this is the Devon Achane Miami Dolphins, which it has been.
Yeah, pretty much. He's arguably been the MVP so far this season. By the way, we have a final. The Denver Broncos defeat the New York Jets 13-11. So the Jets drop to 0-6 on the season. Gameday Uncensored brought to you by the Lexus TX. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. We'll take a break. We'll predict the game ball. Give you some final thoughts going into this Dolphins Chargers Week 6 matchup. Back after this.
I'm Jonah Gadjevich of the Florida Panthers. Congratulations to
Favorite shows and favorite teams on WQAM. We're at FM 1043, or you can listen to WQAM on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps. Check it out now.
Now, time for more of the Game Day Uncensored postgame show on FM 1043 WQAM, Miami sports leader.
Already shutting the doors on us here, man. Welcome back, everybody. Game Day Uncensored here on FM 1043 WQAM. Dolphins taking on the Chargers today. And Solano, what the hell did you send me during the break? What do we got here?
There's a couple different things that I sent you here. So Mike Cunha posted a picture. It looks like he's walking up the what's that, like the roundabout at Hard Rock Stadium?
The ramps.
The ramps, right? And that's the word, the ramp. And just off in the distance, somewhere in Miami Gardens, there is a massive fire, and you can see the smoke just kind of flying up into the clouds. And it's funny just because massive fire, he writes, and then Will Manso responds with Jalen Phillips' quote, where they asked him earlier in the week, like, is there something you can build on despite being 1-4? And he's like, it's not like we're a dumpster fire or whatever. And just very fitting that there's a fire off in the distance before today's kickoff.
I'm going to tell you something. I don't mince words here when I say this. Jalen Phillips better get me 2 sacks today after a quote like that. I'm telling you right now, he better go get me 2 sacks after a quote like that.
Well, how's he going to get him? Like, who's he asking to get them for him? Because he's not going to get you 2 sacks.
Yeah,
I
I don't know.
that.
Just he better get me 2 sacks. Like, I feel like he is lived a fingertip away from the quarterback all season long, but he better get me 2 sacks after something like that. Let's get to our player to watch, which is brought to you by the Lexus TX. Room for all your passions and 3 rows of luxurious comfort. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Let's predict the game ball here, Solana. If the Dolphins win today, who will be the reason that it happens?
So I try to not go Devon Achane every week because, look, Devon Achane's the best player, all right? Everybody knows that. It's not even a question. But I don't know, Tobin. This is what I prepared for you today. I don't know because I've tried to do the out of the box pick. Malik Washington, I thought last week it made sense, right? Like, let's find somebody to kind of make up for the fact that you lost Tyreek Hill, and they didn't feature him at all. I've tried to go defense. I've tried to go with your guy Zach Sealer, but he's been a ghost. I've tried to go with Jalen Phillips already in the past, and obviously that hasn't worked. So I'm kind of left scrambling here. I could go with the easy pick, Devon Achane, because I believe that it's Devon Achane. Or I could go Tua Tagovailoa. Big game for Tua. He likes, at the very least, he wants to be able to perform against Justin Herbert, somebody he'll be tied to for his entire career. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. Like, Tua, just because it's a big game for him.
It is a big game for him, although it doesn't matter to him because he's going home watching Bluey either way. He doesn't care. He doesn't hear anything. No, I'm just messing around. Look, I get it. That's a fine place to go. Man, I tell you, I really want to see Jack Jones have a big bounce back. I thought that he's had a nice season up until last week, so I'm really hopeful that he can get it done. He's not predicting my prediction for the game ball, but I do root for him. I want him to bounce back because last week was a stinker for him after he's had some really clutch plays for the Dolphins. He's had overall a really nice season I'm going with Chop Robinson. I'm going to go with my bet. I think Chop Robinson, we need one of these young guys to hit. We need one of these young guys. I feel like anybody's got the athleticism fresh to go chase down a Justin Herbert and make his life a living hell with these tackles out. I think it's Chop. I think Chop has the big day. If this goes well for the Dolphins, it's going to be because 44 is just wreaking havoc and making things happen. So I'm going to go with Chop Robinson. He is my prediction for the game ball today.
I like it. Listen, man, Chargers have allowed the 3rd most sacks in the NFL this season. If you can't get to Justin Herbert today, then you're probably not going to win this football game. And I like the idea of Chop. Plus, I want to see the celebration. Come on.
Yeah. Big time. They all do it together. Dan Day, you got any predictions for the game ball today? You like anybody in particular in this matchup?
I expect Tua on the offensive side to be very good, and I expect Bradley Chubb because this defense really wants to prove they're not as bad as they looked last week. So those are my two predictions, but I'd go Bradley Chubb.
All right. I like it. We got the same mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. Chop and Bradley Chubb on either side getting to the quarterback is fun. That's still, even if they do get to the quarterback, it doesn't mean that they're going to prove that the defense has taken strides just because you got to worry about the insides, the meat of it all. And
that has been a struggle.
Yeah.
That has been a struggle so far. I am curious too. I mean, look, these home games have been fascinating to me because I go to the first one this year with the Patriots, and that fan base off of the loss to Indianapolis came into the atmosphere pissed, and they were just they could not wait to boo the offense. I feel like Monday Night Football with the rivalry jerseys, it was a little better. You hate the Jets, you have the whole end of the day primetime match. It didn't feel like that. But I'm curious, Solana, I'm very curious to see what the crowd looks like. I'm curious to see if there's empty seats. I'm curious to see if people are on edge. If this does go off the train tracks, what is that reaction like? Because people have said on these reports about Mike McDaniel and his future, and that stuff matters to Stephen Ross. That stuff is going to be what plays into whether or not he keeps the coach around. And so that's also one of these things that you got to keep an eye on looking into this week because, the Chargers are favored. The Dolphins aren't really looked upon as the better team here, but also how do they play? Because the worse it gets, I feel like, the more chatter there's going to be, and they won't be back until the end of the month for that Thursday game against Baltimore. But that's something I'm definitely keeping an eye on too. You said some of the prices, they're really low right now.
Yeah. Marcel Louis Jacques just posted a picture. I think it was Marcel Louis Jacques who covers a team for ESPN. He tweets out about 30 minutes to kick off. Here's how ticket prices are looking for Dolphins Chargers. And if there's any of you right now listening to us, you're driving around and you're saying to yourself, I'll go to a game, get in price really cheap. You could be in, like the upper bowl, but kind of lower rows for $30.
Wow.
I mean, the cheapest ticket right now is $29.
More
to
expensive
get
to
into
park.
much more expensive to park. $29 to get into the game. And Tobin, you know why it hits Stephen Ross when people aren't in the seats? Specifically, more than anybody, because obviously in sports you want fans to attend, but specifically for Stephen Ross, it's because the one thing he can hang his hat on as owner for the team, and it's something that I think every time we're talking about Stephen Ross and the constant shortcomings of the team, the product of the team, we always point to what? Hey, look, this guy has spared zero expense in building a beautiful facility, beautiful stadium. He's updated the practice facility. He's updated the stadium. He's spent the money to do it. He's gone out. He's spent the money to enhance Miami Gardens. We always give him credit for that, right? But guess what? If people aren't showing up to what he's built, he'll notice. He's made that facility specifically for Miami and for South Floridians to come and enjoy it. And if they're not coming and enjoying it because the product has been just consistently bad, that's something that is going to get to him more than it would elsewhere.
I think it already has gotten to him. I think that, when we saw last year how much money he spent and giving guys extensions, and then this year he went into it and he goes, nah, no open wallet, no restructuring, no doing whatever you want. I really feel like this was the first time I can remember with him where he was basically telling everybody, you're not getting all the resources because I already gave you all the resources. You guys need to figure it out with the pieces that I paid already. And I handed out these big fat contracts and big fat deposits to figure it out. And that's rare for him, that he actually skimps on some of the expenses and doesn't put the team in a spot. And I don't know if, that's, Brandon Shore or Garfinkel, who's also helping him around there to go with that decision. But they basically told this version of this regime, you're not getting every resource. You're going to have to figure it out. And that's really where we're at, is that this team is patchwork together. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, and then some for them, whether it be Tyreek Hill getting hurt, whether it be the rookie stinking up the joint, whether that be the offensive lines that they brought in off of the injury shelf being injured. All of it's gone bad. The cornerback, we knew it would be bad. It's finally starting to seem like that's catching up with them too. And I do think that at some point Stephen Ross is going to look at this and be like, all right, now I'm ready to move on to my next tenure, and whatever that is. Maybe that's even with him taking a step back and giving it to his heirs and whoever's taking over the team. This doesn't seem to be a Jerry Jones like situation where Steven's going to basically have to do Weekend at Bernie's with Jerry until the end, and he's never going to be the face until Jerry, as long as Jerry's alive. I could see Stephen Ross basically being like, all right, I'm ready to just, you guys can use my account, but I'm ready to just take a step back and somebody else. And so, maybe that'll be for the better. I don't know. We're seeing with the Irsay family right now, the late Jim Irsay, his daughters seem like they're doing a pretty kick-ass job so far of running their organization. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. Maybe it needs somebody else's touch. I really don't know, but I do know that guy has put a lot into that building. It hasn't worked out, and there are some things that you just can't ignore. Your GM can run from microphones. You can run from microphones. Your players can lie about not seeing stuff on social media. But one thing you can't ignore is when that building has a rancid atmosphere and fans are pissed or not showing up. And look, man, we can have some lows as a fan base here, chanting for Kyle Orton at a scrimmage. It's one of those things that the owner just can't bury his head in the sand like an ostrich and not notice that stuff. Especially in a game like this, with the implications of Tua, Herbert, it gets amped up a little bit, right? It's all ramped up a little bit before a game like this. The emotions are high. People don't forget about that draft, the draft that was supposed to change the trajectory of this organization, of Stephen Ross's tenure as owner for the Miami Dolphins. And here you are, 5 years removed from that draft. Tua, Herbert, while the Dolphins enter the game 1-4 overall. Emotions are high, bro. You've got the banners flying outside. People have already seen it. You got to be able to put a decent product on the field, man. You have to. And when you don't, yeah, man, the owner's going to hear from the fan base. Here's the rest of the 1 o'clock matchups today. You got Cardinals at Colts, the Jacoby Brissett revenge game. He is going at quarterback for the Cardinals today. No Kyler Murray. Indianapolis is an 8.5-point favorite. Obviously, they're off to a great start, 4-1. You got the Patriots, who beat the Bills last week. Man, beat the Bills on the road. And Drake May has them right now at 3-2. The Saints 1-4. So you would think they're in position, even going into the Superdome, to make themselves 4-2 on the season. Tough bullet to bite for Dolphins fans, huh? The Patriots already 5 weeks into the Vrabel era have surpassed the Miami Dolphins. Very tough bullet to bite. Definitely. The Browns, of course, they're going into their new eras of quarterbacks. They got Dylan Gabriel starting. Shador is officially the backup there at 1-4, but they have to go into Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh right now 3-1, 6.5-point favorites today at 1 o'clock for that one. Man, and everybody, I feel bad for Dylan Gabriel because everyone's just going to be rooting for him to get pulled. Everybody. But is Shador the backup finally? Yes, they said this Friday. They said he is the number 2. Oh, okay, all right. He is the number 2. It would have been very interesting if he was not. Very, very interesting. You got Cowboys, Panthers, not too sexy a matchup there. A sneaky good matchup today is Seahawks at Jacksonville. Very good. 3-2 Seahawks against the 4-1 Duvals. 1 o'clock kickoff. What about in that game? I don't know if the line's changed. Let me double check. I know we're up against it, but the favorite in that game on Friday, the Seahawks still -1 in Jacksonville. Doesn't that surprise you a little bit, considering Jacksonville just beat the Chiefs at home? Right. They're 4-1, and the Seahawks come in and are favorites in Jacksonville. It's a little surprising. It's a little surprising. It's a little surprising for sure. So got that, and then Joe Flacco's making his return today. I mean, that's going to be pretty crazy. He's taking on the Packers. Can't believe that. And then Lions Chiefs is our Sunday night football matchup. We got a great 425 to 49ers and Buccaneers, but we got to turn our attention to this one, ladies and gentlemen. Dolphins and Chargers. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks to Chris Perkins. Thanks to Omar Kelly for stopping by. And guys, catch Dan Day after the game for Game Day Uncensored post-game edition. And then Solana will get you ready with pre-Heat today at 5 for Heat and Magic. We will talk to you next time.
And there you go. Another Game Day Uncensored in the books. Kickoff is almost here. Dolphins and Chargers coming up. We'll come back right after the game with the Game Day Uncensored post-game show on FM 104.3 WQAM. Miami sports leader.
Hi.